I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast, episode number 122. This one's with Zoë Nutt, and we talk about what it's like being a musician who is losing their hearing. It's a very interesting and unique story. I really appreciate Zoë for sharing it with me. If you'd like to find out more information about her or see her live and in concert sometime, you can visit her website at zoenutt.com, ZOENUTT.com. And you can follow her on the socials. The links are up at the top of her website. But yeah, I appreciate her for being on and telling her story. Sponsor this week is Feral Giant. Feral Giant is a graphic design, illustration, and social media consultation company based here in Knoxville, Tennessee. So they do work for clients big and small all over the country, all over the globe, in fact. But they also do photography, videography, video editing, and audio editing, website design, SEO, writing, content development. Hell, they'll babysit your kids if it nets them money. So make sure you give them a follow on social media on either Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn at Feral Giant. And be sure to give them an email today and hire them for your next project. Without much further ado, here's the episode.
And what's funny is I've started asking questions, and I used to not have questions.
Uh-huh.
So it feels kind of funny opening up the podcast we used to talk about. Here, I'll start it here. The old school way to start the podcast is I'd never seen Game of Thrones.
Oh, I have seen Game of Thrones.
Okay. So I would say I've never seen Game of Thrones, and we would talk about that for like 5 minutes before we got into the show. So this is a little bit of throwback. And some of these things I already know, but I'll still ask.
I think that, I like it.
So where are you originally from?
I'm from Knoxville.
Okay. You're from Knoxville, but you're currently living in Nashville.
Yes.
Which we'll get into in a bit. Which side of town did you grow up on?
Well, I guess I grew up in the Bearden area. I went to Bearden Elementary, then I went to Webb, and now my parents kind of live out in Loudoun County. So
they've escaped the city.
I mean, they're they like being out in the woods.
Well, away from all the California, New Jersey, and Florida people who are moving up there.
I think they like everyone. They just aren't city, like they like coming into the city, and then they like going out.
Okay.
My dad's they have ride dirt bikes out there and stuff like that. He likes having his space.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I understand that. I've got an uncle that plays the lotto, and he said if he ever won, he would buy a bunch of land in Norris and erect walls so people would stay the hell away from him.
Yeah, and even Norris is getting kind of busier. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you come back here, or do you keep tabs on Knoxville at all? Or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have friends here, and I come back all the time.
Okay.
2 of my brothers live here right now.
Okay.
My grandma lives next door to my parents.
Oh.
All my family lives somewhere in Tennessee. So I come back for, actually I came back for my cousin's wedding this week.
Oh, nice.
But typically like once a month probably I'm back.
Okay. Well, the scuttlebutt is that they're doing all these renovations to the airport to make it an international airport.
Yeah.
And that there will be, I think it's 800,000 new people in the Hardin Valley area.
Oh my gosh.
And I keep saying this. I can't figure out if they're averaging like 4 people per home, and that makes 800 or 800,000 homes. I don't know.
I have not heard much about that. That's That's a lot of people though.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. As long as it's over there.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to deal with that traffic. So.
I live in Nashville. I know what the traffic's like, and it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Although this last time I went back, I didn't see as many cranes as I normally see. I don't know if
Yeah.
if it looks like it's sprawled out though a little bit more. What did your folks do?
My mom's a physical therapist,
Okay.
and she's just, a mom now. But and my dad is an electrical engineer. They both went to UT. That's where they met.
Oh, nice.
And he's really just like an inventor, jack of all trades kind of guy.
Okay. Oh, okay. Now living in Loudon and having his space, does he have a big workshop or workroom?
He does. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He's always got a project, something he's doing.
Does he complete the projects?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I've
actually met
most of the time. Yeah.
The funniest part is I met your parents and talked to them for like 30 or 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, at that show, I was like, "Oh yeah, I've met your parents. That's right. They're lovely people."
They are.
Are they empty nesters now, or do any of your brothers still live at home?
Let's see. So one brother's still at home, and one is over at UT right now. So like, there's always someone at the house. He has an apartment over at UT, but like he's still back over at the house.
There's
too.
always somebody raiding the pantry closet.
Yes.
Yes. Of course. And I just got this far in. We're 5 minutes in. I realized I have not explained the chair that is sitting on its side.
Oh, I didn't even notice that till now.
So that chair is broken, and I need to take it out to the edge of the road. But it's been so rainy this week, and I am also so dumb that I will wake up one morning and forget that is broken and sit in it. So I set it on its side, so I would not forget. That is either the smartest thing or the dumbest thing I've ever done. But
no, I like it. I mean, it will remind you to take it out too. It doesn't just become a part of the room. You're like, I need to get rid of that.
I'm gonna start, if it's there for another week, I'm gonna start calling it my art project.
I like it.
I'm gonna paint on the base of that right there.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest piece of interactive art ever.
Or it could be the chair that like the people that you don't really want over, they can just sit in that chair. Yeah.
Now go ahead, sit down.
Yeah, sure.
It'll collapse, and then it'll be your problem. You have to replace my chair.
Yeah, you broke my chair.
I'm gonna cut all of this out, so no one will. No. Okay, so the electrical engineer.
Yeah.
Engineer, physical therapist, and how many of y'all are there?
So I'm the oldest. There's 3 brothers. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
The youngest is 21 now. Yeah.
Okay.
And the oldest of the brothers just became a dentist. He's a Dr. Nutt now, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
So in your house growing up, was art or creativity a big thing for you?
Definitely.
Okay. Were your parents, even though they did those things, were they artistic, or did they play music at all?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Both of them always loved, playing music for our family. My dad was very big into, REM, a lot of like the 90s and 80s sort of alternative rock. But we also I felt like we listened to a lot of Aretha Franklin when we were little too. Like we'd have a little soul, little blues, little rock. Like they really did just want to share what they loved. A story I love to tell is growing up when my dad would take us to school. I guess at the time his car had like a CD player, but it was in the trunk of the car.
I had a Mitsubishi Montero that had a 6-changer back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he had his setup. He knew what he wanted in the back.
Yeah.
But he would, play those CDs for us in the car and would ask us, like, the meaning of the song, how we felt about it, like, what did this lyric mean? He really liked us thinking about, like, what was this person trying to say? So that, I think, is probably a big reason why I love lyrics so much.
Okay.
Because he made that such a priority. To the point that, like, when we're driving to school, if I didn't know what it meant, he was not interested in letting me out of the car just yet, even though we're right at the line and it's time for me to get out of the car. So, I mean, but that was more important that I know what Johnny Cash was meaning.
Yeah.
You know.
He's like, all right, we're going to take another lap. Let's go.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
That's
so, and on my mom, her part in it, she's always been very artistic. She is also, she was a physical therapist, but she worked with special needs children primarily, and she and another friend started a group for a while called Art Soup, where they would like put different art projects together for these children that didn't have great motor skills, and so there was like the implementation of art plus physical therapy. So I hung out with all those kids a lot after school, like at our house in the basement area where they put this together. It was a cool little thing, but we'd, paint pianos and different fun things. So I think she's the one that likes to come up with the fun, cool thing. She'd love to figure out something for that chair over there that you mentioned. I betcha she could find some really cool purpose for it.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of like where I come from in the art and music world.
But did they play any instruments themselves or sing?
No. Well, my dad, I think, played trumpet at Farragut High School for a little while, but I don't know how far he got in that. He doesn't talk about his trumpet days, but
the wild and crazy trumpet days at Farragut High School.
But my mother's mother, my Mimo, her family was in like a traveling family band.
Nice.
And so they'd like travel around. They're from Chattanooga, but they'd travel around Tennessee to different churches and sing. They all, sang or played different instruments. So there's some musical background there, but not from my immediate household. No, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of wild on my end. It's my dad listened to everything from like Buddy Miles to Stax to Motown to Charlie Daniels Band to Willie Nelson to I think Boston and Foreigner and all those bands, Styx, all those bands I couldn't stand. And then Mom would listen to B97.5. So it was a lot of Celine Dion and Dionne Warwick, Anita Baker, a lot of that stuff, a lot of schmaltzy stuff. Richard Marx, she was a huge Richard Marx fan.
Huh.
Yeah. So it was weird, the two of them.
Very different musical taste there.
And they didn't play any instruments. I'm still the only artist in my family, which is kind of weird.
Really?
Yeah. In the vast expanse of everybody. Everybody is blue collar, everybody is working class. Dad was a truck driver, Mom worked for the phone company. So me doing art, it took, I still don't think they understand it. I think when they tell people he's a designer, they're like, he does menus and stuff like I've not done a menu in a long time.
I know what you mean. Like when you're trying to explain to someone what you do and you're a creative person, I'm sure some people listening on this podcast feel this way too.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm a songwriter. And they're like, so what do you do all day? And like, I write songs.
Yeah, that's what I do. Well, on the flip side, when I started doing this, I did not tell them. And then it came up one night at dinner, and Dad was like, well, how do I get that? I was like, no, I don't want you listening to it. Please don't listen to this. Please don't listen to me talk about you. Please. It's all good stuff, but please don't do that. So even though they didn't really play instruments, did they encourage you all to try instruments when you were kids?
Definitely. I took piano lessons as a kid for a little while, and they're never they're the kind of parents that never force any of that type of stuff on us. Like if you have an eagerness to learn it, then we'll help you and let's figure out how to do that. But so I took piano lessons for a little while. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty dyslexic, so it was a little confusing as a kid.
Okay.
Pretty sure my entire family is. But and then like really I got into music a little more in middle school and high school, just singing in the choirs. And I didn't even learn guitar until college, actually. But vocally, I sang in the choirs, and in high school, I started auditioning for the musicals and plays at my school. And I didn't get the part that I wanted at first.
Oh, really?
I was a little, I'm a freshman, auditioning at the high school play, but I didn't get the part I wanted. So I thought, like, I'm going to go get vocal lessons. I'm going to get good at this. And then I got parts that I wanted.
Nice.
So it's kind of like how my musical trajectory growing up was.
How was the musical theater program there? Pretty good.
Yeah. At that point, I was at Webb, and
Okay.
they have a really good musical theater program. So.
Okay.
We did plays like Sweeney Todd.
Good
Yeah.
Lord. That's a little.
I know.
That's
It's
a
an
little
intense one. Yeah.
Yeah, if you had went to Catholic, there's no way they would have done Sweeney Todd at Catholic.
We always had some interesting ones, like some that aren't as like your typical high school. We didn't do like Hairspray or that sort of thing.
Carousel or any of those old ones. Yeah.
We did 1776.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
I was a
Okay.
dude in that one.
Oh, nice. Nice.
But like, I can't remember what else. There are a few like very avant-garde ones that we did. Drowsy Chaperone. Yeah, someone that like I guess you wouldn't normally hear about.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
So.
Did any of your brothers pick up any instruments?
Yeah. So my two youngest brothers, they played bass and drums, and they had a little band for a while with one of their friends, and it started out like being just taking. I think each of them kind of were taking lessons from a guy here in town, Aram. I have a terrible time just pronouncing his last name, but he's a local bass player here.
Yeah.
So they were kind of practicing, and then they started just making their band practice with him, and they're not bad. They're fun.
Okay. But I did hear a little bit of the Big Sister coming out when you're like, they have a little band. They have a little...
No. Nah.
No.
They were very cool. I liked it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So doing theater in high school. So when it's time to go to college, did you have in mind what you wanted to do with life, or did you want to do theater more? Was there anything?
Yeah, I think in my heart, like there were a lot of ways that I wanted to go. Aside from music, I've always been like very visually inclined. I love drawing. I love creating just visual and physical art.
Okay.
So I thought about going to school for visual art, and I kind of played with that idea. I went up to a school in Chicago for a summer and played with that, just like not just before I actually went to college, like maybe my senior year of high school. And I decided that I didn't really want to be told what to do in the art world in that sense. Like, I'm not sure if this part's for me. And
I'm thinking of critique. Your worky sheet. Yeah.
I love being critiqued. That doesn't bother me at all. I think it just kind of sucked a little of the joy out of it in that point for me. And that was really the reason. I was like, okay, I love this. I do not mind being told if you hate my music or my art.
Right.
I know what I'm trying to do, but it just wasn't. I just didn't want to make it a job.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I ended up auditioning to a number of schools for classical vocal performance, because at the time I was studying with my voice teacher after doing all those high school plays. I'd gotten pretty good at that, and I thought, I don't know exactly what I want to do with music, but I know I want to be in it. And so I started auditioning for different programs and ended up going to Belmont University over in Nashville. And one of the big reasons, oddly enough, that I decided to go to Belmont was because they were one of the only programs, really the only program, that when I talked to the directors, I would ask at every school I kind of auditioned at, like, is it okay if I'm in a band? Even though I'm going to be doing classical music, I've been told by my vocal teacher that, this is not very kosher. And a lot of them told me, no, we really would like for you not to be in a band. We need you to focus on music in this way if you're going to do this, which I can respect that they're honest about it. But I was like, okay, this school says I can. And they like it, and
because they're in Nashville,
I know, right?
They're like, hell no, you do whatever you want.
So I think subliminally, I was just always a little nervous to probably go exactly for what I wanted, or didn't know what I wanted, but I clearly knew, in some sense, that classical was something I wanted to try. But was it the end all be all? I was already asking if I could be in a band.
Okay. So we've gotten up to college, but we haven't talked about. So I'm not going to try and pronounce what you typed to me. So. I'm going to just hand that over to you.
Okay.
Because I don't know. was it something from birth, or was it something that happened at certain ages?
It's both, which is why it's so weird to describe. Like, you're not the first to feel a little confused about how to describe it. But for those listening, I am hearing impaired. I have what's called progressive sensory neural hearing loss, which is a fancy way for saying we don't really know what's wrong. When I was trying to text you to explain what this was, I was like, oh, I hope I didn't like send him too much info. Like, because it's all kind of weird.
For the listener, my response was something like, no, or something. I can't remember. And then I was like, wait, that may came off as flippant. Hold on. I need to text back and be like, I just don't know how you're dealing with this shit.
Oh, no. I was like, oh, man, I probably really brought him down with all that info. I was like, so I have progressive hearing loss. So I'm continually losing my hearing. And it's funny because, like, when you asked if it's from birth or not, it's from both.
Okay.
By the time I was 8 years old, I was completely deaf in my right ear.
Okay.
We assume that is from birth. We don't know why. It could have been from, there's a virus called CMV, cytomegalovirus, that you can have in utero that I could have gotten. It poses as a common cold to adults, but it is something that can have single-sided hearing loss or even very serious brain issues with babies that have it. Okay. So one or the other, or sometimes. But so that was something that it possibly could have been. We are not sure.
Okay.
But by the time I was 8, I was deaf in that ear. I wore hearing aids for a little while in elementary school, but eventually they became, not very helpful.
Not very helpful. So in going backwards a little bit, at what point did your parents figure out there was something going on?
That's a good question. I don't know the exact year. I may have been 4, maybe.
Oh, so it wasn't even like when you were 1 or 2, or like little.
No, I think it was good. I'll have to ask them. I don't want to say the wrong thing. Because my parents are very attentive. Like, this is just something that got worse and worse as I got older until I was 8 years old. So, like, nowadays they like do hearing tests on little children and stuff. I don't know if they did that with me, but they may not have caught it even then.
I was going to say, and you can't vocalize. You can't hear.
So they started noticing I wasn't responding to them all the time. And I think that's like what caught them to think like, okay, something's going on here. I have a question that, please feel free to punch me if this is an inappropriate question. Were there any vocal issues that came with the hearing loss? So that's interesting. I mean, yes, like not tonally, like she did not punch me for those listening. No, it's very typical for people with hearing loss to have an accent or not be able to pronounce words correctly, like how we normally do, because you're hearing things differently. Right. So there were a lot of words that I did mispronounce. There's still things I mess up. Like, I'm terrible at like colloquial phrases and things. I jack them up. But we're from Knoxville. There's going to be phrases you can't pronounce. You're like, what does that mean? Anyway. But no. So there are definitely words that I would just say strangely. I never really had a speech therapist. My parents were really good about kindly correcting me. They told my teachers, and for the most part, I grew out of it. And I think that was just them being really rigid on just like, oh, no, you say it this way, or, But, that definitely is a thing. Okay. With Bearden being such a big school, were there other kids that had hearing issues or vocal issues or anything? There were some other kids that did have hearing issues. I don't know a bunch about that. I had one friend that had a cochlear implant growing up in elementary school for a little while. It's kind of funny because neither of us could really understand each other, hearing each other that well, because I couldn't understand half of what she was saying. And but it was a really cool friendship knowing that like someone else, had something similar to you. But other than that, not really. Like aside from one friend, like I didn't know anyone that had anything like what I was going through. Well, it's kind of weird. Like, I'm about to have to be put under to have my wisdom teeth out. Finally.
It's the first time I'll ever have been put out.
Really?
Since I was 6 or 9 months old.
Oh, wow.
So when I was, and good God, I am not trying to, I feel you on this, but it was, when I was born, I just would not stop crying. And my parents couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. The doctor said, oh, it's just the pediatrician, it's just a baby being a baby. And they finally, at like 6 months or 9 months, went and got a second opinion. And I had such ear issues that I had tubes. And the minute that happened, I stopped crying.
Wow.
And the fact that my dad did not go back to that first pediatrician and kick the shit out of him.
I bet.
For like, because same thing, something could have happened also. But I keep thinking about that now as I get put under. I was like, the last time I got put under, I was this big. I was the size of my forearm.
Yeah.
And now it's going to take a lot more to put me under this time. But yeah, that's why I was asking, like, if when you were young, because my parents were able to catch that because I just screamed for like the first 6 to 9 months. So
that's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, not equal.
Oh,
not at all.
No, that doesn't matter if it's equal or not. It's not a game of what's more equal or not. Like,
yeah,
I totally get you. I had tubes as well. I had a surgery for them to try to patch what they thought was maybe a hole in my ear, like all the things.
Yeah.
But the wisdom teeth thing though, I will say I hear it hurts the older you get. Fingers crossed. Like, I mean, I did have mine out maybe in high school, and it wasn't bad though. Like, So
I'll tell you a quick story. I hate going to the dentist because I've always had issues. My parents both have bad teeth, bad gums. So I'm screwed. And because I'm a larger dude, there was one time I went to the dentist and it was a new person in the office. And I was having a filling on one of the front teeth, and he put in the legal amount of Novocaine he could, and I still could feel everything.
Oh.
And he was and he got mad at me. I was like 24, and he got mad at me, and he was just like, damn it, I'm going to go ahead and do this because you should be numb by now.
Is he thinking you're lying about it or
I guess.
something?
And so he did that, and I felt all of it. So here is the funny, sad part. I had so much, because I also have so much anxiousness and adrenaline buildup, I ripped the arm off of the seat.
Oh my gosh.
Like I completely hulked out and just ripped it off. And he was just like, I'm almost done. Like he fought through.
Wow.
To operate. And so I went to another dentist after that. They did some work, and now I'm back in that original dentist's office. And I've got a different dentist there, but I had to see him, and I almost went, I feel confident and comfortable enough now to want to punch you in the face. That's 3 times I mentioned punching in this. But it was just like, do you know how screwed up that is, man? Like, it's just, I don't know.
All right. Well, now that my brother just graduated from dental school, I'm going to have to tell him that story.
He'll
be shocked.
It was wild. So when I talked to my dentist about going and having that done, the extraction, I was like, I need them to completely put me out. Because I can't, because I've heard the thing of like, well, you're in twilight and you can feel them. I was like, no. I don't want to hear a crack. I don't want to hear anything. I need you to knock me out. And just wake me up. My dad will pick me up. I'll get somebody on it. But do not, I don't care about twilight sleep. I do not want to hear any of that shit.
You want to be out cold. You want to be like, yeah. Wow. No, I bet it'll go great. But I'm sorry for that. That's not fun.
Knocking on wood.
Yeah. Knocking on some wood here. Yeah.
Okay, so 4 to 8, it starts...
Just the right ear.
Yeah.
By 8 years old, I'm deaf in that ear. We don't know why. We went to all the doctors, did all the tests, couldn't figure out anything. And after that, it's just like, well, that stinks. But
I was going to say, how did you handle that? Like, was it depressing or?
No, as a child, I think there are times where like, there are definitely things that I felt like I was missing out on. Like for instance, I've hated going to the cafeteria at school for like ever since I can remember, because it's so loud and everyone's talking and different directions.
It's all marble. It just bounces.
So there's things like that where I missed out on stuff. But I mean, aside from that, it wasn't a big deal. My parents didn't let it become a big deal. They're like, this is who you are, and we're just gonna work through it.
Okay.
They're and I mean, I have 3 younger brothers. You gotta be tough, right? Yeah.
Whereas on the flip side, my sister is almost 12 years younger than me. And the difference is I would not let anybody touch her or her.
Oh.
Like, it was the exact opposite. I was like, I still pick on her every once in a while, but it's not anything close to younger brothers. I can't imagine.
Oh no, they will defend me for, against anyone. They love me. I love them. And it's we didn't really picking on each other that bad, but it's more just, like, you're in a big family. It can be fast paced, and like hearing loss can be a little difficult on things like that. But everyone just kind of understood and was nice about it. I don't think I made it a big deal. I think I just decided not to make it a big deal.
That's led by your parents.
Yeah.
Like them being like, we're going to.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with you, like, we just got to, like, do things a little differently.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Were you already playing piano by then?
I don't think probably a little after that. I think that I'm trying to remember when exactly I started playing piano. I didn't take lessons for a super long time.
Okay.
So I was probably a little older.
But the hearing loss never, like, stood in the way of, like, no, I want to do this. I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I don't think that fazed me. Like,
it's
kind of funny. I think hearing loss in my lifetime has gotten in the way of a number of things, but oddly, and it's gotten in the way of me doing music too. But if I think about, like, deterrence, hearing loss does not deter me from music, if that makes sense. That just doesn't really, that had never really, it wasn't an option in my mind. I don't know. I'd lived a large portion of my life, with being deaf in that right ear ever since I was 8, that I think eventually you just kind of, it's who you are, you know. But it definitely was just hard, like, missing out on some conversations or always asking what, or, just sometimes just feeling like there were times where I think I don't remember who it was or anything like that, but there were times where, for example, I'd be talking to someone and I'd have to ask them a bajillion times, like, what did you say?
Yeah.
Maybe 3, 4, 5 times. I still didn't hear you. And I do remember someone once walking away from me and saying, it's just not worth it. So there are a few things like that happened. That's like,
good Lord.
Geez. But I don't know. Other than, it's not like it was never a chip on my shoulder, though.
Okay.
So I guess that's kind of a weird way to explain it. But it was a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so 8, completely lost in the right ear.
Uh-huh.
Was the left starting to have issues at that point, or when did that start having issues?
No. So, I mean, I went, spoiler alert, the left one. Yeah, things.
Yeah.
So I, went through life thinking and being told, by all my doctors and my parents and everyone, like, we think it's just the right ear. Like, there's no indication that the left ear will have any issues. And for a number of years, it was that way. It wasn't until I was in college at Belmont, and I just changed majors from, I practically finished my classical vocal degree and changed to songwriting and music business. And my first semester of songwriting class, I was about almost 21. I woke up one day and couldn't hear anything. And, I go into class and I can't hear anyone. I'm like, this is not a cold. This is not, maybe I brushed it off at first, like maybe I'm just really sick, but it didn't go away. And, we eventually figured out that I'm losing hearing in my left ear. And when you lose a very large portion of hearing so quickly, I could technically hear things, but it was all muddled. It sounded like I was underwater, couldn't understand anyone. And every noise was like closing a car door or crunching a water bottle. It was like painful to listen to. So it was very intense sensory kind of event. Okay. So that's when that happened. It was all of a sudden, literally just woke up one morning and I can't hear anything. So, and I can explain a little more about what we've learned. So from then, I went to some of I think I was in Nashville. Like, they have a really great ENT program there. So at Vanderbilt. So I went over there, talked to some people, saw, the best doctors, and no one can figure out what's wrong. And still to this day, we can't. I started taking, steroids to hopefully mitigate the hearing loss. It didn't ever change anything. Mm-hmm. But eventually how I like to describe it is I kind of got a new normal of hearing where I learned to adjust to this new level of hearing. So I did that for a while, and then a number of times after that, I'd wake up and not be able to hear anything again. I kept losing stair steps of hearing, and there was no rhyme or reason to it. It wasn't sound damage. We can confirm that. There are no genetic tests that show anything. I've done, poked and prodded on myself, done scans and whatnot, and there's no apparent reason. It could be that we just don't know what it is yet. It could be I may have an autoimmune disorder or a genetic disorder that the world just doesn't know exists at the moment.
I will say, I'm going to go down a tangent.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
I keep making notes. I was like, I need to ask a question, but I need to. So I've got a friend that all of a sudden he started having neurological issues.
Okay.
And then he just randomly wouldn't be able to feel the entire left side of his body.
Oh, wow.
And he just kept having this fog and this cloud, and then he wouldn't be able to feel his fingers. And this went on for a few years.
Uh-huh.
And he kept going to specialists, and he went to one in Florida who said, I can't remember what the disease was. But whatever the disease was, it was a form of MS that they were like, in women, we can diagnose it and start working towards treat it.
Uh-huh.
In men, it doesn't get bad enough until 6 months before you die.
Oh.
And he was just like, he was struggling with that.
I would too.
And there was one point where he and his wife were traveling in an Airstream across the country, and he was in Charleston, and we sat up on a roof and we were talking. He was having issues with his wife.
Yeah.
Like her not admitting that this was an issue.
Yeah.
So this happens, and then a few months goes by, and randomly, I can't remember the specifics, but he found this specialist in Missouri that it's the only guy who does this, but he did tests and found out it was a variation on Lyme disease. And that not only that there are, and he said there is a laundry list of things that are misdiagnosed, and they're actually Lyme disease.
Yeah.
And he was like, it was crazy hearing some of the things like MS. It's like, it's not MS, it's Lyme disease. And it's just being misdiagnosed. And that doctor, every time he writes a paper, this is going to sound crazy, like out of a movie, and sends it to the CDC sues him because they think it is unwarranted and unfounded.
Wow.
So then my friend went on this regimen of a handful of pills, and he would have to take malaria medication to fight one of the other pills, and he would have to change the malaria medication every 2 weeks because his body would get used to it. So he'd have to shock his system. And he was like, oh, it's killing my liver. And it's just destroying my body, but I'm feeling better. And he almost completely cured. Because of the Lyme disease. So then I'm talking to him later, and I was talking to him about being on that rooftop in Charleston. Rooftop bar. Let me clarify. We weren't just randomly on a rooftop in Charleston. And he was like, I don't remember a word I said. He was like, I'm not kidding. There's a good year that I don't know what happened. I can't remember much of anything.
Before he started on that medication?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
And he was on that medication, I think, for a year, 12 to 18 months. Mm-hmm. And it fixed him. And then recently he had a minor relapse and had to be back on the medication for 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
But it was years in between the two. So that's why I just bring that up to say is God knows. Like if he had not seen that doctor, he may be dead, and they're constantly finding new ways and new things.
That's amazing. I mean, that's torture to go through thinking, one thing about your life, that you have 6 months to live.
Yeah. Yeah. Or,
and then
no, even worse, you won't be properly diagnosed until 6 months before you die. So he's just keeping on living and then been like,
yeah,
is today the day I get diagnosed and I know I have 6 months to die? Like, no.
Wow. It's funny that you mentioned Lyme disease, because people have asked me that before.
Okay.
Lyme disease is connected with hearing loss, but I think it's so, like you're saying, there's like so much questioning about what presents as Lyme disease, what actually is. Yeah. But I have scheduled a test for Lyme disease. I don't know. I think it's like I've been told it's a super far-fetched, but it's one of those things you don't want to go too far down a random testing route. But that'd probably be the one random one I'd test for and be like, I've gotten so many messages about Lyme disease.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've gotten multiple people tell me, like, you should test for Lyme disease. And I'm like, no one's told me, no doctor has told me I should, but I've been told enough times, so I'm like, all right, screw it. I'm going to go test for Lyme disease.
Well, I think that specialist had found out, like, somehow through testing, he had it for like 10 to 12 years.
Oh, really?
And it had just gotten worse as he got older.
Uh-huh.
And it finally got so bad. And he was also under a lot of stress because he was driving around the country in an Airstream, and he wasn't sleeping, and he was working these weird shifts and not eating proper, not taking care of himself, and that made it ramp up really bad. But okay, well, God, it's called Ramblin' Man, so it bounces everywhere.
I love it.
So in the younger years, and even leading up to what happened in college, were you ever learning like sign language or anything in case something happened, or
no? Funny enough, my school did eventually start offering a sign language class, but I was really hell bent on learning French, which I'm terrible at. At that time, I was like, no, I'm deaf in one ear. I do not need this. I'm going to learn French.
Oh my God.
And I'm not very good at French. Everyone in my class, I'm sure, can attest to that. But so there was that option, which I do think is really cool that they offered that. But growing up, I just didn't think I would need it. I thought it was a cool language to learn, but it wasn't my priority. Okay. And I didn't have any friends that spoke or that signed, So I just was some high school, middle school girl that wanted to learn French.
I know letters in sign language because at Fulton, the ball boy was actually an older, well, he wasn't older. He was in his 20s, but to us, he was older. And he was deaf and went to TSD. And he gave me a card to learn letters. And he had his own sign language that I found out later. I was like, oh, none of this is properly ASL. We called it Mikey speak because it was just shit he had invented. But,
I like it.
But yeah.
That is cool. I did take an ASL class maybe a couple years ago, just like at my local place down the street from my house.
Yeah.
That was interesting, and I wouldn't mind doing it again, but at the time I was just like, I was trying to finish a record. I was trying to get things done. I'm like, okay, I can't multitask this much. I just got to decide, like, I would love to learn this, but I'm going to focus on what I want to get done this year now.
Okay. See, I promised we were going to jump back. So you're 21, and then the left ear, you start having issues with that. Yeah. So, but it was kind of intermediate. God, I can't say that word. Intermediate. It wasn't like all the time. It was all of a sudden you'd wake up and you couldn't hear that day.
Well, the hearing never came back.
Oh,
so once I lost the hearing, it was gone. It never came back. Okay. So yeah, it's kind of weird to describe because unless you're experiencing it, it's just like, it sounds so strange. But I woke up the first time that morning, before I'm about to go to class, and I can't hear anything. Mm-hmm. And I eventually, over a few months, figure out, okay, I can understand people again. I'm just living with this hearing loss. And then probably anyone who's had hearing loss can attest to that. You just adjust to your new normal. It's amazing that humans, brains can kind of work that way. But continually, I'd wake up, every now and then, sometimes like months later, and again, I'd lose a large chunk of hearing. I'd go to Vanderbilt, get a hearing test, and they'd say, yeah, you've lost like a bunch of hearing. Here's your chart, and it never came back. When it got really bad was, and I'm terrible at the timelining on like this year or this month, but when it got really bad was I was recording with my band at the time, and we were trying to finish my record, and it was around Thanksgiving, Christmas, kind of like that latter half of the year, that I just had multiple instances of that waking up and continually losing hearing, and continually driving over to Vanderbilt, getting really used to where I need to park at the hospital, and being told I'm losing more and more hearing. And that's when my doctor kind of sat me down and said, like, you're eventually going to lose all your hearing in this ear. Like, just, it's going to happen eventually. You need to think about getting a hearing aid, and you need to think about getting a cochlear implant surgery, because, you need to start preparing and planning. So I ended up getting a hearing aid for the left ear, and that helped some. And I had stopped recording my record and went and had surgery to get an implant in the totally deaf ear, my right ear. And, took a year off from making music or trying to make that record, and just learning how to hear again. So it definitely took a turn there, but it just increasingly kept getting worse to the point where I'm not functioning, not being able to understand people. Like, if I didn't have my hearing aid stuff on when I came in here today, there's no way we would have had a conversation. It would be I'd be guessing half of the time. Most of the time I'm still guessing, but
I'll try not to mumble as much.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You have a nice loud voice. You're
sorry.
good. And we're wearing headphones.
Okay.
But that's kind of the trajectory of how it went. And yeah.
Okay. So that was around 21, 22.
So 21 is when the hearing loss occurred. I guess I've had the implant now for 3 years. I guess I had my implant around 25, 26. So it was a number of years before I actually had the implant surgery.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
God. Okay. I'm going to bounce around, but I'm going to.
And I guess just to clarify to people, I'm more than half deaf in my left ear at this point. I've lost the majority of my hearing at this point.
Okay. So the cochlear
implant.
I got it right. So what is that? I think I know what that is.
I'll show you.
Okay.
And any of y'all just Google cochlear implant.
I think I've seen people with that.
So I'm showing him as the cochlear implant processor here, which looks a lot like a giant hearing aid. And the way it works is the curved part goes over your ear like normal. And this round piece actually connects to my head with a magnet. So I'll show you. So I'm going to just you can see it just hangs on my head. I could stick a fridge magnet on my head and it would stick. We've thrown paper clips on my head before, as a game.
Little brothers. That's what.
Yeah. I've had my friends do it and everything. So it just kind of, I can put it under my hair or over, whatever. But basically, the way it works is they implant a small metal coil with electrodes on it into my inner ear. And your inner ear kind of looks like a snail shell, it curves a bunch of times. So, and you can imagine it kind of scales on a piano, the further you go in the curves, you're going up or down the scales of the piano. And those electrodes on the little metal coil that they stick in your ear signal to different parts of that inner ear, this is a note, this is a noise, and that gets sent to your brain, and your brain has good luck, you figure it out. You figure out how to decode this.
Okay.
So it can take a minute to learn how to hear. The magnet part is how the processor, the hearing aid looking thing, talks to the stuff that's literally implanted inside my ear. So if you run your hand over the side of my head, you'll feel a bump where the computer chip and magnet is. It's very freaky.
So you were getting computer chip before us cool people got vaccinated.
Oh, yeah.
You were doing it before.
Vaccines are nothing.
Yeah, you're the cool kid.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. So you did that. Okay. Again, maybe a possibly dumb question.
Oh no, dumb questions.
So you're completely deaf in your right ear, but does that make you now 80% deaf in your right ear? Does it?
That's a good question. I don't have a great percentage. The ears, there's so much that we don't know about, but so with the implant now, I can hear a little out of that ear. I can understand certain voices, and I can detect like notes in a scale, or Mary Had a Little Lamb, like simple melodies. I can't detect like an orchestra of music. I wouldn't be able to really tell you what we're listening to.
Okay.
If I was just listening with my implanted ear. So like there's a slight shift in my ability to hear wearing the implant, and it really does help. Like I feel kind of naked without it on. Like I feel like I can't hear that well. But I don't have like an actual percentage for how much it's helping.
Okay.
The thing about that is, like imagine you had like a leg that didn't work ever since you were 8 years old. And then someone like miraculously gives you this pill and your leg works again. That leg has not been used since you were 8 years old. It's probably like not in great shape.
Right.
And so it's going to be a really long time before you get it into shape. And that's kind of like what my right ear is. I haven't used it since I was 8. So all the neural pathways and just the memories that like your body makes through just the living and, going through the motions of working that ear, they didn't exist. So it's kind of, this ear is a little lame, I guess. It's like it's not in perfect functioning order because it's been forever since.
Are there things you can do to work to improve it?
Yes, they're super not fun, but yes.
Okay. Well, and like, it's almost like that's a long-term goal. Like I'm going to keep doing this and gradually it will just keep getting better.
Yes. So, and on a side note, like eventually if I do get implanted in my left ear, that probably will be a lot easier because that ear has been working and, like it's been decently working for a longer point of time. Like, that's what my doctors have told me. Like it should be easier. So the right ear, like things like I'm supposed to do to, learn how to hear with that ear. I'm supposed to wear the implant processor all day long, which at first is really hard. If anyone listening has ever had hearing aids, when they first make you wear it, they tell you, to wear it forever, and it's super annoying. And a lot of people give up even wearing hearing aids because it's so annoying sounding. But you got to just suck it up and stick through it kind of mentality. And so you do that. And what I need to start doing is listening to like my favorite shows or movies strictly with the right ear, like Bluetooth transmit it from the television to my processor, which I can do.
Holy shit.
I know.
2022.
Yeah. I don't have it I don't have the newest version where you can connect it to your phone, and I know that's so first world problems.
No, I'm laughing because I'm thinking, and then it'll be like 2006 where all those guys walked around with their little Bluetooth.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. It totally is.
Yeah.
But like the idea of just listening or in that ear, or my doctors would tell me to plug up my good ear and go around and talk to people just with the implanted ear. But that was a huge headache trying to do that one. Like but that's generally like, you just have to jump in, do a dive into it. That's a terrible analogy.
No, I know it. No. Oh, I'm going to rescue you by asking a dumb question again. Does it mess with balance when you do that? Because I've always heard that, like that the crystals in your ear affect your balance?
I don't know about that exactly, but like, so Ryan Adams, the musician, for instance, he has Meniere's disease, and he has serious issues with balance because of it. Like there were articles about him like almost falling off stage and stuff. And his Meniere's is different because it's all about the fluid in your inner ear. And I think that might be what you're thinking of.
Did I say crystals? It's probably fluid. You mean you don't have crystals in your ears?
I I like it though. It sounds fun and it's interesting.
when Mercury is in retrograde.
Hey, I mean, never say never. You don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know a lot of things about the inner ear. You can't really see everything in it. So I'm not debunking the crystal theory just yet.
You can find this on YouTube. There's a comedian named Bert Kreischer that had a show called Trip Flip.
Okay.
And he went to Vietnam, and there are people on the side of the road that pick the gunk out of your ears.
Oh, it's so gross.
But it was so much came out that I was
Really?
like, should I go get that done? I don't want to go to a dude on the side of the road, although he looked like he did a very good job. But it was just like, that's a lot of gunk. That's a lot. Because I think about that with, everybody talking about Q-tips. How you don't use Q-tips because you could rupture your eardrum.
I've been told, not to use Q-tips also because, it just shoves some of that stuff further back in there, supposedly.
Yeah.
I still use Q-tips sometimes.
I still do. It's still, it gets the stuff on the edge out.
It's a little satisfactory.
Yeah. What else are you going to use Q-tips for? That's still the funniest thing.
Makeup, I guess you can use that. Yeah. Your eyeliner.
Hold on. Obviously, that's what I'm using. Q-tips. An Instagram filter told me I look like my celebrity twin was Rihanna today. And
really?
Don't act shocked. I look exactly like Rihanna. Good God. Crap, I had a question and now I'm lost.
Oh, you're all good.
Okay, so you have that in your right ear. You took a year to kind of get used to having that. Were you doing things there where you were stuffing up your left ear to kind of...
Sometimes I do, there are computer programs you could use and different things. I think it is one of those things that was kind of hard to go through because I mean... Not many people I knew really understood what I was going through, so I didn't go out to coffee shops with my friends and stuff my ear up and try to guess what they're saying. So there wasn't a lot of that. I honestly felt like I started isolating myself more because it was impossible. I mean, as a musician or as a creative in general, a big part of going into a community is going out and meeting people and saying hi to a bunch of people you don't know. And that got way harder throughout that process of losing my hearing and then having to wear the implant. And I'd make myself go out some, but it was really hard. And I started avoiding going out because it was just absurdly stressful and made me sad. But there were times where I probably would have been helpful to do more of that, but I did stuff my ear up and listen to different things, and I feel like I need to start doing a little more now that it's strange. It's such an emotional and stressful thing when you do this that sometimes all you need to do is just live with it and don't make it a chore. Just try to enjoy it. And now that I've, I've had it for a few years, I feel like I'm at a point where personally I can make it a little more of a chore to watch The Office a bajillion times just with the implant.
No, not a chore. Working out. You're working out. That's the way to look at it.
It's kind of a working out. Yeah, exactly. And
or PT, going with your mom. Physical therapy. It's
exactly like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good way to describe it. Something that I've, if I were telling someone who was about to get this, I'd probably tell them to do a little more than I did. But to each their own. You'll find your pace.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you kind of locked down for a year. Mm-hmm. How much of the record did you record at that point?
I had a number of the songs done, but at that point I ended up kind of revisiting, added some new songs, changed things up a little, remixed and remastered, and kind of looked back at it a little differently. Yeah. And lo and behold, when I'm ready to release the record, COVID happens. I'm literally, I had some musicians at a studio in Nashville, and we had just finished recording, and I get out to my car and my mom calls me and she's like, you should probably go to the grocery store. I'm like, why? She's like, because I think things are about to get weird. And I'm like, oh, we're seeing on the news, everyone's starting to freak out. And after that, I couldn't, after you record instruments, you usually record the vocals next, the true vocal. Okay. So I was having a really hard time booking vocal time because all the studios were closed after that. It was weird. I had
They
just hit
don't
the
want-
cutoff.
It's a communicable disease. They don't want a bunch of people coming in and breathing on their microphones.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because, I mean, you have a vocal booth, like a door that you can close, you know, but no one knew anything about it at that point.
It was wild because when it happened, I can remember the dates. Like March 13th was the day it really kind of blew up. Mm-hmm. And that was a Friday because I usually go to about 65, 75 shows a year.
Oh, nice.
And I had gone to 4 shows that week. And I was in Asheville seeing a record release for Christy Lynn Band. Okay. There was a guy, was that the one where the Dead Tongue? There's a guy out of, I think, Asheville named the Dead Tongues that he's very good. I think you would like him. But I was watching them and I was texting with a friend back here who owns a bar in downtown, and they had already canceled Big Ears because that was in February. Mm-hmm. And he and I were talking. He was like, I don't know how we're going to survive because a lot of us, that Big Ears weekend is how we make all of our money in Q1. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sitting there, I was like, texting back and forth with him furiously, like, we got to fix this. I was like, and he and I and a friend who does PR started working up a help downtown Knoxville to where it was like, everybody get out and let's all go do this. And we were going to do it like March 20th. And I'm sitting here, I drove back that night, and I'm sitting here on my couch watching the news, watching the world fall apart as I'm building artwork for this thing. And then I finally texted the two of them. I was like, I don't think we should do this. I think this is a lot worse than we were even talking about 8 hours ago.
Yeah.
Because I was supposed to go to a show that night, the Silver Sun Pickups at the Mill Mine, and they didn't cancel it until like 30 minutes before the show. Not even Doors. I think Doors had already opened.
Yeah, people already in.
And and they canceled it like 6:30. And there was part of my brain all day like, cancel this show. Cancel. I don't want to go out and be around a bunch of people because this seems like it's bad. Yeah. Like it was insane.
Yeah, it's very kind of, it's creepy looking back on like that feeling in that moment. You're going to tell your kids about it kind of thing.
Oh, I remember finding a video. This was, I guess, in April because, we're in Tennessee. Yeah. So once it hit like May, nobody gave a shit. And sorry to cuss so much. I hope your mom and dad.
I don't care.
Okay.
No.
Nobody cared. So you would see like Gatlinburg was full. But there was a time in April where it wasn't. And somebody took a drone and flew it over Pigeon Forge in Gatlinburg. And it looked like a zombie film. It was so awesome and creepy at the same time.
That actually would be a great location for a zombie film. That'd be kind of fun.
Well, here I am with all that happening, and I'm trying to get a group together. It's like, let's go shoot a film downtown because no one is downtown. I was like, we could do some kind of cool movie because nobody's driving. Everyone's at home. Like, let's go do something. And everybody's like, no, I don't want to go. I was like, I'll stand far away from you. I just want to shoot it, man. I just want to do something. And even talking about like, let's go up to the mountains and shoot something because no one's there. Let's do it.
Rates are cheap.
Yeah.
Go find.
But then come May, everybody decided. And I was laughing about Gatlinburg because people were like, the people in Gatlinburg are stupid. I was like, no, that's people from Ohio, Georgia, Florida, all coming there to vacation.
Yeah, people come from all over to Gatlinburg. It's a genuine tourist destination.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not Gatlinburg people out walking the strip. That's tourists.
Yeah, it's everyone. They were tired of being stuck in their homes. They were going.
Bringing their COVID from Ohio and Florida. Okay, I'm going to bounce backwards. You're in college. You switch majors.
Yeah.
Were you playing around town when you were in college, even when you were a classical vocal major?
Not a bunch at first. I started...
Or making connections with other people.
I had friends that were in different, like, musical majors, like, at school. Belmont is they have a very large music department. So, I had friends that were drummers and bass players and singers, different people that I knew. But I found myself in classical music taking, I was doing that very seriously. But I found myself feeling very depressed in that major, not really happy with where I was going with it. And it wasn't that I was bad at it by any means. It's just like something's not right. I love music, but I'm really not happy right now.
Is classical vocal like opera?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So you could go into opera, musical theater, teaching, and those are kind of like the main ones, you know, that you would go into with musical that major.
Theater. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think I really wanted a degree. I wanted to check that off, whether I continued with music or not. And I wanted to do something creative. But looking back at it, I started realizing like, I don't want to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. I really like classical music, but I'm not sure if I like the way this is all done. You know, like this is it's a perfectionist sport in a way, and I don't think I really fit well in that. You know, like I think I wanted to kind of do my own thing a little more, and so I started writing my first songs around that time. I picked up a guitar, figured out how to play guitar.
You found a guitar in Nashville?
Oh yeah, just sitting on the street there. You know, said take me. Yeah.
You're the one person who found a guitar in Nashville. I don't see many of them.
I know those are rare. No, it was very nice. My grandmother actually bought me my first guitar.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but I started learning that, and I submitted my first songs. Actually, Travis Wyrick over here in town, he recorded my first songs, and we submitted them to Belmont's songwriting program. So I came back here to town, and I got in their program, which at the time was a 20% acceptance rate. Like it was, it made me feel like, okay, I'm new to this, but they accepted me, and I must be doing something right. And they already had me at their school. Like they could pick someone else to take their money from, but
fresh money.
Yeah, exactly. So I just felt like, okay, I need to see this through. And I know it's a strange way to go through college and not what I was ever expecting, but I felt like I needed to figure out what I could do in this.
Since you were in Nashville, were there big country music songwriters who came in and mentored or taught?
There were some talks, people would come in for every college has where you have to get credits and listen to people speak, but and we had some songwriting mentors that were more on the songwriting side, so no one no giant names that everyone knows by any means, but just people that were working in the industry that had hits and cared about teaching someone.
Oh yeah, there's a friend that owned a cabin in Gatlinburg that his neighbor was one of Alan Jackson's core 5 guys that writes all the songs. But it was you would never know his name. Yeah. Because that's what he does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. There's some people that like that. They're like, they don't need the stardom side of it. Yeah. They just want to write good songs.
Well, that's knowing enough about being a music nerd and thinking, oh yeah, there's all those session musicians that are probably better than any guitar player that you can ever imagine, because they had no time to learn. Somebody had come in, it's we need to record this, and they'd be like, all right, I got it. Like they would have to almost learn on the fly.
Yeah.
And it's and you don't know those guys' names.
No.
Either. Yeah.
And what I've learned a lot, with recording music, or at least what I've noticed in Nashville, the way they do things, you have your band play for stuff, but a lot of especially in the country music world, they have their band for live stuff, and then they have session players for the actual record. So they're two different beasts entirely. Yeah. It's very interesting. Mm-hmm.
Which I think it's Sturgill. I think his bass player is a session guy that it's the really big guy. Uh-huh. Anytime I see a big guy, I love seeing a big guy. When he was on SNL, I was like, I think that's a session guy that I've seen play behind the scenes of Chris Stapleton or anybody recording with Dave Cobb. Uh-huh. I've seen that guy playing.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let me think.
Yeah.
I'm having to think because I have questions, but some of them
we both looked up at the ceiling where did we go in the
Some of these are loftier music questions. But,
okay.
Okay, so you switched.
switch majors.
You said music management?
No, so I switched to a songwriting major with a minor in music business.
Music business.
Uh-huh.
So there were people who majored in music business. Were they also musicians, or were some of them like agents and stuff?
Some are people that just want to work at publishing houses or at record labels and do not like have like the creative musical side in that sense. And some were people that also were musicians that thought this is, the area that I want to kind of enter into. So it's definitely a mixture of people. And it's interesting, like, looking back, I would have done it differently because I went in being like, I don't exactly know what I want. I just know where I want to be here and figure it out. Yeah. And there are other people that are like, I know what I wanted and I've known it since I was 5. And so there's a lot of different people from all over the place that come into these majors. It's not like a one size fits all by any means. I guess it is, but yeah.
I keep fussing that I think any college program that is creative, you should be required to take business classes.
Definitely.
Because there's a chance you're going to work for yourself.
Yes.
And you need to know marketing. Mm-hmm. You need to know promotion. You need to know
basic legal.
Logistics. Yeah, legal, taxes. All that shit that you could probably take one semester and knock all that out.
Yeah.
And take like general business classes and figure that out. So the note I made was, there's probably people wanting to get into A&R, and I still don't know what A&R means. I know it means artists and representation.
Yeah.
But I know it used to be a lot of people in A&R were people who were almost like scouts in baseball, where they found people, but then they also like fostered them and taught them. But that's A&R is such a weird term for that, artists and representation.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's artist and representation or artist and relations. I get really mixed up, but I think you're right. But yeah, it basically is the same thing. Like it's people that look for talent, usually for like a label or, typically like a label. And sometimes they also, mentor these people and maybe get them a vocal coach, get them better clothes, find out what songs they really need to cut. Like, I think it runs like it's a very large umbrella that they live under.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But there could be people coming and doing that at Belmont.
That want to go into that for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think those, like I as a creative, I could have, looking back, I'm like, do I really need to go to college to write songs? I don't know. But I think in this situation, a lot of people go also just for the connections of meeting the people that, down the line, maybe an A&R or maybe working at a label, and fostering those kind of relationships. So to each their own. But I think in this day and age, maybe I wouldn't go to college. I'd just kind of,
I don't know, because this is not one-to-one, but I know so many people who got into like beer, like the craft beer, like selling or advocating for craft beer by being a bartender.
Exactly.
Like, so I know that's their version of college.
Yeah.
It is like, I got into this because I would eventually like to get to that and making these connections here. So college was your version of that, was your connect. Because if you had just gone, how many people come to Nashville a day saying,
oh my gosh,
with a guitar and saying, but going through the Belmont system, it's like, oh no, she's legit. Like she is working her butt off doing this.
Yeah. So I think that does help, just making friends and, growing up, growing pains, going through college, learning things about yourself, like, learning to live on your own, all those. Yeah. As well, but
I'm still trying to figure that out.
I know. Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, wait, hold up. I'm still texting my mother, asking her how to do everything.
Well, I had this thought like a year ago. I was like, I have to make my dinner every night.
Yeah.
No one else is. Like, I know that sounds so silly, but it's just like, damn it.
Yeah.
I would like to have one night where I can just come home and lay on the couch and be like, can somebody just make me dinner, please?
I'm with you. I would ideally like, if there are any hot chefs listening to this, I'd like a chef boyfriend. I'm single and I have to make all my food myself, and it's not that good.
Obviously, you haven't done any research. That's all that listens to this is hot chefs.
Yeah.
Right. Wait. now you got to pick up the French so you can talk. It's a French chef.
I know a lot of the terms.
Oui. Damn it. Yeah, we went from laughing, but I'm about to ask a very sad question.
Go for it.
Were there points where you were like, maybe I shouldn't be doing music. Maybe I should be doing something else because of the hearing issues?
Not really, honestly. I mean, I wasn't living in La La Land thinking like I can do anything, you know. But I knew I knew how I was approaching my hearing loss, and that yes, it was difficult, but I knew I was like able to handle it every time this happened. Every time I lost a big chunk of hearing, I was like, okay, I still have really great pitch. I still have the ability to hear things. There were literally days where days that I couldn't hear well, that I had my head to the guitar because I couldn't even pick out a C chord, and hear it. So there were definitely days that were defeating like that. But oddly enough, the idea of not doing music really didn't cross my mind. There are times where you're like, this line is terrible. I'm a horrible musician, you know.
But that's normal songwriter stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I think it's funny, and I don't know if this is just a human thing, but the seemingly very large thing, hearing loss, hasn't been the reason that I ever second guess myself as a musician. I think it's more of the other human things of like second guessing, you know, your lyrics, or you know, am I good enough? Am I
creative?
Am I creative enough? Can I be one of those Instagram people? Is that what music really is? Like all those things that kind of flood through your head. I think even though hearing loss has been a huge damper at times on my life, for some reason, it's not one of those things I've ever said is a reason to stop doing music. And I do have a very supportive family, and I think that is a huge help. People that care about me and say like, you know, we're here for you, we're going to catch you if you fall kind of thing. But like, they don't expect me to fall, you know.
And because of that, you've been able to have time to develop a base of fans that are pretty good.
Yeah.
Right. Or and also fellow musicians.
Definitely.
Who help and support. Mm-hmm. Like, well, I don't want to give Cruz any props because
I love Cruz.
He's kind of a dick. I'm just kidding. No. Last time I saw him, I was at Jig and Reel. Funnily enough, a woman who works for a brewery or for Wicked Weed out of Asheville. Yeah. She's the rep in Greenville, South Carolina. She was in town one night only, so we went and hung out all night. And I came out of Jig and Reel, and he turned around and looked at me, and he just walked up and and I'd already hugged Josh Oliver inside. Cruz just came up and hugged me. He's like, "How are you doing, big guy?" I was like, "Oh." And the last time I saw his son, I looked at him. I was like, 2 things: stop growing.
I know.
And listen to your daddy. Do anything he wait, never mind. You're good. Don't listen to anything he like I just picked on him.
Oh no, Cash is like, he's a grown man. I think he's going off to aviation school or something.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I can't get over it. Because I think I've known him since he was a baby. Like,
really?
Yeah, I've known Cruz. I used to run a music site here in town from like 03 to 06.
Okay, cool.
So I got to know all the musicians because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's really cool.
Yeah, so I've known Cruz for a long time, and it's hilarious.
Well, he's awesome. He's been super supportive. He lets me open for him, and some of like his out of town dates, like out in Montana and Idaho when he's gone out there. And I honestly, like, my first impression of Cruz Contreras was when he was playing with Robin in the CC String Band, and it's oddly enough, they were playing some gig that my school went on like a little field trip out to this, I can't remember where we went, but there was some kind of outdoor, you know, field trip, like go do some exercises and be friends and all. But like
in a corporate office, that'd be called team building.
Yes, it was team building. Yes, but they just called it field trip. Yeah. But they actually came in. The band was there, like doing a little like quick set while they were. I don't know how they ended up coming there and playing for the class, but it was really cool. And I remember looking at Robin and Cruz, and I was just enamored with them. And I loved Robin's voice. I thought Cruz on the mandolin was just amazing. And that really was my first impression of them, is like, I think in middle school, like just, seeing like, oh, wow, these people are legit. This is the real deal. And they're just standing in front of me here at my field trip. Like,
he doesn't get enough credit for, I think he is a tremendous band leader.
Yes.
Because I still remember all the times I've seen him in different iterations.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember some shows I was like, oh, he's just, everything is riding on him right now.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one show, they used to do Scruffy City, what was that? Scruffy City Limits? I don't know.
Yeah.
It was something at the Square Room. Where they filmed it and aired it on PBS.
Oh, I didn't even know that
Roots, Scruffy City Roots, because it was like Music City Roots.
Oh, okay.
And here it was a odd group of people, and he was running the show. Like he was the one, like, all right, now the bass comes in. All right, now all this.
Mm-hmm.
So he's already been mentioned once. That I think it was that show. There was some young dude from Kentucky that was the first act that night. Sturgill Simpson.
Huh.
I
Really?
have seen a lot of people that are huge now in very intimate location, like Lake Street Dive. Do you know them?
Yeah. I saw them open for Avett Brothers, actually.
I saw them at the Visit Knoxville for Tuesday, Tennessee Shines one night, and there were 7 of us in the crowd. Yeah.
Wow.
I saw the big one. Well, there were a few big ones. Some My Morning Jacket open for the Drive-By Truckers.
Whoa.
Sundown in the City. And no, it was very empty. It was very empty. But the funniest one, I am kind of friendly with Amanda Shires.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And she was playing at the Well. Do you remember the Well?
Yeah.
It was in Bearden. It was the one that you went down the steps.
Yeah, I do remember. Yeah, it literally was like this basement kind of strange door entrance.
One of the best music venue bars.
Very small and made you feel kind of cool going in.
Yeah. So she was coming to town to perform, and she had just started dating Jason. And we had an ice storm here, and he drove her over and played with her. And there were 10 of us in there. And Gina, the co-owner, still talks about it. She was like, that was kind of hilarious that it was just a few of us. And I think maybe his second album had come out. Like, it was still very early on. And because it was he did the 400 unit album, then he did a solo album. It was that album.
Okay.
And and he performed a few songs, but he backed her up for the most part. And I went up and there was some nerds talking his ear off while he was trying to break down gear. And I stood there for a couple minutes. I was finally like, I just broke in. I was like, excuse me, man. Hey, man, really good. Thanks for coming to town. Sorry there weren't. And he was like, oh, no. I understand. He was very nice. And I almost wanted to go, do you want me to take this guy here? Because the guy just kept talking his ear off. And I was like, I just want to say hi and shake your damn hand because you're awesome. And and she cracks me up because that was the night we were talking, and I said, I think I'm your largest fan. And she was like, I don't know. There's some big old boys in Nashville. And then she started rooting around her CDs, and then she looked back at me and she's like, nah, you're it. You're
the biggest fan?
You're the guy. You're the guy, the biggest fan.
I love that.
Yeah. She's hilarious. She's hilarious.
I mean, I've seen her play. I saw her play at one of the, I think the Bud, I may be giving the wrong beer name. I'm terrible at this. There's a Bud Light stage at Bonnaroo that happened a lot.
Oh, God, I'm sure.
Something like that. I saw her. It was like a little more intimate, but it was really cool seeing her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, when Rhythm and Blooms was still like on Market Square and all the, I loved that.
I loved just music on Market Square. It's kind of cool.
But they would take over like where J.C. Holdway is now when it used to be John Black Photography. Mm-hmm. Like I saw Jessica Lee Mayfield.
I love Jessica Lee Mayfield.
All kinds of people in all that glass. Seeing them was great, but there was one time Jason was just starting to become big. This was right after that, and he was playing the Square Room. And I walked up to the side, and the security guy was like, no more. We're at the limit. I was like, I can just stand here. The doors are open. I can just watch from here. I don't care. And Amanda's sitting there playing, and she's on my side of the stage, And she looks over and sees me and stops playing mid-song and starts waving at me.
No way.
And then Jason's playing and he kind of, what the hell is going on?
What are you doing?
Yeah, and then he just kind of looks at me and then she goes, and then starts playing again. Like, it was hilarious.
That's
like,
funny.
Now, that's been years. If I ever saw her now, if she was here, she would probably remember me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're hilarious.
It's just cool to think about, like, everyone has to start somewhere, and everyone plays 10 people rooms, even Jason Isbell, so, and even Amanda Shires, and
I forgot about the bigger one is when Disc Exchange, it was for Record Store Day, and they would have bands come through, and they had the Steel Drivers come through with Chris Stapleton.
That's cool.
So I'm sitting there, same thing, with like 20 people, because people, the music nerds or the bluegrass nerds knew the Steel Drivers, and he's sitting there playing. And then the next time, I saw him a few more times in between, but the last time I saw him was at Thompson Bowling, and it was just like, there's 20,000 people in here.
Yeah, this most recent?
No, it was the time before. It was the 2018 show. And it was just like, the last time, it was 20,000 now. It was 20 back then. And then I saw him at Pres Pub a few times with the Johnson brothers. Yeah. But it is wild. Like, holy crap, now everyone knows who that dude is. Yeah. Like, that blows my mind.
And, I mean, for a while, he was mainly just, a hit songwriter. Yeah. And, I mean, I know he was... none of this is overnight success. There's a lot of hard work going into it, but it felt like an overnight success going on television with Justin Timberlake, and all of a sudden everyone knows who this guy is. It's kind of interesting how that works.
Although I will say, the greatest thing in the world, there is a trend that I don't know when this started. I think about 3 years ago, where it is predominantly black people discovering music that is not normally in their wheelhouse.
Listening to Dolly Parton or I've seen that. These two guys.
Lost in Vegas is what they're called. Okay. But there are all kinds. There's a guy named Jamil, a.k.a. Jamal, or Jamal, a.k.a. Jamil. He's all positive energy. And he is the greatest. Like, it's where he'll just pause and be like, he'll just sit there for a minute and he'll be like, I don't even know what to say. Like, he's just freaking out so much. But those two guys, that's how I discovered them. They did, I think it was Tennessee Whiskey. When they first listened to that, it was like 30 seconds into the song, and they had paused it like 4 times. And they were like, he's invited to the cookout. Yeah. And then like 2 minutes in, they're like, he's bringing the potato salad. We trust him with the potato salad. Like, they were so excited about Chris Stapleton.
That's cool. I love, like, there's that time when you share your favorite song with a friend of yours. Yeah. And they don't get it. Like, it's really nice seeing someone be like, wow, that's great. And I'm going to really appreciate it and soak it in.
So I will tell you a funny, you looking at me would never expect this in a million years. But during the pandemic, I was like, I'm a big music nerd, and I don't want to lose touch on what is new. So I would go on YouTube and click trending, and whatever music was in that top 50, I would listen to every one of those songs. And it's a lot of Latino rap.
On YouTube?
Yeah, and a lot of very weird, but it's just trending. Like today, they released a new Star Wars trailer, so it's like number 1. But there will be music in there. And there's a lot of like mumble rap that I can't like, but there was one time I did it and I was like, man, there's this young woman. She had this song that was really good and really powerful. And it's like, man, pop is making a comeback and she's really good. And then 2 weeks later, everyone else discovered her, and it was Olivia Rodrigo. I heard Driver's License when it had like 100,000 views.
No way.
Yeah. When it was just on the rise, I was like, man, this is and her album is very good. It is very good.
I've not listened to it in its entirety. I need maybe that's what I'll do on my drive back to the house.
It is very unexpected for me. Like, there's a group of people that we met every Wednesday during the pandemic. We called it Prayer Circle, air quotes. And but there was one time where we were talking about pop music and how it was becoming good again. And so we actually would make like a top 5 list of like, here is pop music that's come out in the last 3 to 4 years that is something that's good. Yeah. And because I'm an idiot, I made a list of like 40 songs. Yeah. And it's all over the place. Like, it's The first guy is more of an R&B and soul guy, and then like number 4 is this guy Willie Carlisle, who's like a. Have you heard of him? He's like a New Orleans tinged country guy.
Cool.
Very good.
That sounds very cool.
Good. To where I'm almost going to share with you this playlist because
I was about to say you should share the playlist with everyone. That sounds really cool.
Well, I just shared today with this woman too, that one, and I have one that anytime I hear an individual song that I'm like, this isn't somebody I want to listen to the whole album, I'll just dump it into this playlist. Been doing it for 6 years. And now it's like 100 to 200 songs. That's and cool. Some of it's old stuff. Some of it's old blues stuff. And some of it's more modern stuff. And I sent it to her and she was like, this is the weirdest grouping of songs. Like, I was like, yeah, I know. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, it's weird.
I like weird. I'm down for that. Like, I don't want to listen to the same thing over and over. Like, change it up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can't. Okay. I'm going to ask two more hearing questions, and then I'm going to get into some deeper music questions for you. Are your doctors like constantly looking for developments or stuff that science that may be able to change, that may be able to fix, or at least fix to a point to get your hearing back?
I mean, no one is actively looking just for me like, oh, we need to keep thinking about what Zoe needs.
No, but I mean, in general.
Yeah. In general, I think doctors keep up with kind of like the newer studies, but my doctors have told me so far, like, it's probably not worth it to go into an extensive trial, like with medication or things that we're really not sure are working yet. I know that there's some stuff going on with like, I can't describe it fully, but like they're getting better at targeting certain hearing losses that they know the cause of. Like we can tell like this genetic titer we have connects with this hearing loss, and we can kind of try to make some sort of remedy for that if they kind of know what they're looking at. I'm doing a terrible job explaining this, but because they truly don't know what's wrong with me, that's definitely I don't think there's anything on the forefront at the moment.
Okay.
I think we'd have to find new genetic markers or understand something different about, autoimmune disorders. Kind of like how, Lyme disease, autoimmune disorder, no one knows exactly how all these people can have it with so different symptoms. But
are there any things with like stem cells or HGH or anything?
So the stem cell thing is kind of connected to like if you know what genetic markers you have that are causing your hearing loss. So stem cell research is promising for some people, but I did ask my ENT specifically, like, is that an option for me? And at this point, it's not.
Okay.
It would just it wouldn't necessarily work for me. Unfortunately, you can't just kind of throw it at the ear and say like it'll work. I kind of thought, I was like, great, stem cells, let's go for it. Yeah. But I think it's a lot more targeted to very specific types of hearing loss that they know a little more about and can,
Okay.
So unfortunately, nothing for me yet.
Okay.
Really the only thing that they can do is when I lose hearing, they give me steroids, like just a high dose of prednisone.
Well, I could tell. Like you're yoked for the people listening at home.
Oh, I'm so pumped.
She's just yoked. She doesn't have a neck. It's all muscles.
Oddly, unfortunately, not that kind of steroid. I'm very lanky and so yeah, those steroids are usually like they kind of can suppress your immune system and not make you feel good. I actually made like a post online about prednisone and being on it, and it got like an absurd amount of likes and stuff just because so many people have to live with prednisone or other steroids that they're on, and they make you feel terrible. So it's kind of interesting. So many people chiming in saying like, oh, I know how you feel.
Yeah.
But so I'll go on those every now and then, but they're really not good for you. So I'm not at the point where I have to take them all the time. Just,
Through any of this, has it caused like any like headaches or migraine issues or anything?
I mean, it can. Like every time I lose hearing, I definitely, feel a little weird. I don't necessarily have migraines from that, but like for instance, while I've been home, I've had, I'm around more. I'm single. I live alone. I'm not like talking to people every single day all the time,
Right.
But like when I'm home with my family right now in Knoxville, and all the allergies kind of floating around, I've noticed like I can barely get a conversation in because I have a headache, an extreme stuffiness, plus the hearing loss. So I think it's more other factors that lead to like the headaches and stuff. But it's usually, I guess, whenever I have a first bout of hearing loss, like another extreme loss, that maybe I'll have a headache or something for a while.
Are there any medicines you can't take because of any of this?
No, I can't. No medicines. I can't get certain MRIs scans because of the magnet in my head. We're actually talking about that. I might have to get an MRI for a totally different thing. And we were talking about like if I have to get a certain type of MRI, a strong enough one, they'll have to cut the magnet out of my head. And so they'll literally take me into the surgery room, knock me out, fingers crossed, and cut the magnet out, sew me up, stick me in the MRI machine, take me back out, open me up again, and stick the magnet in. It's like, and really, fingers crossed, I don't have to do that. I'm pretty sure I won't, but I was talking about that with my mom today, like, okay, if I have to get that done. So that's the only big thing. I can do just about anything.
You better look at that doctor and say, you better not charge me for removing this and putting it back in, damn it. You've already put it in once.
I think they will.
Oh, God, of course they will.
I usually meet my deductible.
Yeah.
Just like even getting hearing checkups and stuff, like something was wrong with my insurance at one point, and I was just charged the true bill for what my hearing, and it really is hard, like if since I'm self-employed, like hearing loss insurance is really difficult to get. But so I was having to pay this out of pocket entirely this one time, and just to get my cochlear implant hearing checkup where they like tune up the volumes and stuff was going to be $500 to sit in that room for 30 minutes. And I guess it's not shocking. The medical world is stupid expensive, but it's just like, geez.
Yeah. Get you for any penny, every penny.
Yeah.
So so do x-rays cause issues? Like when you go through airports, do you have to get patted down?
I do get patted down sometimes, but I mean I can go through the x-ray. Sometimes they get weirded out, so they just pat me down anyway.
Yeah.
But I have my little hearing case, and I put my devices, my hearing aid and my implant processor in that, and tell them to hand check it, because if it goes through the x-ray, then it can wipe it can mess up the microphones and like the computer little programs on it. So they hand check that, and sometimes they'll pat me down just because like it's kind of a weird looking thing.
Yeah.
But that's not too bad. The hardest thing is I can't really hear anyone, and I get nervous. Like, when do I walk through the x-ray machine? When they tell me to stop, sometimes I mess it up, that sort of thing.
Okay. Another dumb question. Do you walk around with like a pen and a pad to be like, I can't hear you, but we're going to write down?
It's a good idea. I mean, iPhones or smartphones in general are super helpful for that sort of thing. Sometimes I just play dumb, which is bad because sometimes I smile at like terrible things, or like I can't remember. There's been some bad ones.
like, do you have a bomb?
Yeah. I can't remember. Someone has told. I wish I could remember. It was really funny, but someone did tell me. My friend and I. So there was a gas station near our house at the time that we lived in Nashville, and we were walking over, and she was getting something from the gas station, and she goes up to the cashier and checks out, and this guy was kind of strange, but he was somehow, I think my friend was like traveling to Canada or something, and she goes to that gas station all the time. So she's like, I'm going to be out of town for a while. And the guy was like, oh, be careful in Canada. I don't know. Canada's not so good. And she's like, what happened? He's like, oh, I was stabbed in Canada. And I don't know why he was stabbed. I don't know who his enemies were in Canada or whether that was true. But I just smiled through it and kind of chuckled, like, because I didn't know what he was saying. And I'm like, I walk out later and I'm asking Joy, like, what did he say? I was trying to just be nice and smile. God. And she's like, oh, he got stabbed. Like, it's just stupid things like that.
Well, you do know you're safe in there, because that dude will be like,
that dude's not messing around.
Crazy. She laughed at me getting stabbed, man.
Yeah.
She's like the next Joker, man. She's crazy.
You're not gonna mess with me. I'm messed up. I'm very demented. True evil over here. But
Oh my God.
But I guess I don't use the pen and paper thing as much. I usually just have to explain to people, and
Yeah.
oddly enough, some people don't believe me. I've had people. There's one person I really had to convince. I had to get a friend over and say, like, please, will you tell him I really am hearing impaired?
That's when you get a refrigerator magnet
like,
and put it on the side of your head.
I know,
like,
right? Well, at the time, I didn't have that
Okay.
stuff, and I was really, like, I was being a stickler. I didn't want to get it at first, and
Yeah.
I had nothing to show for myself. Like, I don't have anything to show
Right.
you, but I promise you, like, there's a reason I keep asking you to repeat yourself.
I'm a designer. Do you want me to make you a card?
Yeah, people have, yeah, you can make me a cool card. That'd be cool.
We can get it laminated and everything.
Yeah.
It'll look super official.
Deaf motherfucker. Yeah.
That'll be in the small print at the bottom. They'll
Yeah.
really have to read it. It'll look super official. And then down at the bottom, it's like, you dumb motherfucker. Oh, my God. Okay. I think that's all.
That's definitely a tangent there on that one. But
I think that's all the. Hopefully, everything else will just be fun.
yeah,
dumb questions.
and it's easy to talk about this stuff. It's
Yeah, and
weird stuff to talk about, but
Thank
yeah.
God you can laugh at it. But
Yeah, I mean, it would be a very sad life if I couldn't. Like, that would, if with anything in life, I mean, there are times that you need to feel sad and let that moment go through, but like eventually you just gotta be like, all right, I can have my moments, but gotta move on.
do you let it? Does it ever seep into your songwriting?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
I did write one song. I recorded it twice, a couple of different, once just as like part of an EP, and once in my record, song called Like You. That is it's kind of an interesting one because I haven't really lived this yet, but at the time when I first really figured out like my hearing is going down fast, I wrote a song called Like You, and the chorus is no one will ever sound like you. And the point being, like, whether or not I can hear you in the future, I was kind of addressing like a future child, or just even like a future relationship, or, you know, but the point was just that because I've heard all these other things, like I can say that even though I can't hear you or know what you sound like, I've heard everything else. Like no one will ever sound like you, and I can know that definitively, you know? So it's a song about that. Like, so, and I put, I also have tinnitus or tinnitus, however you want to say it, which
I've never heard it that latter way. I've only heard tinnitus.
I know everyone says tinnitus, but maybe it's a Southern thing to say tinnitus, but it sounds right to me.
No. Have you ever seen the movie Singles?
No.
Do you know the movie Singles?
I don't think I've heard of that.
It's a Cameron Crowe film that was shot around the time that grunge started to blow up.
Okay.
And it's shot in Seattle. It's about these people that live in the same building. It's like Bridget Fonda, Matt Dillon, Campbell Scott. It's all these people.
Mm-hmm.
Keira Sedgwick. But they're going out to clubs and stuff. And there's a point where they're at a... God, this is really dating it. They're at a newsstand on the side of the road.
What are those?
And it's an older guy, and he's saying something to them, and he's like, they just come from clubbing, point to the ears. He's like, tinnitus. He said tinnitus, and that was Seattle.
Yeah.
So it
That's
can't
true.
just be a Southern thing.
Yeah, right. Maybe the rest of the world's just wrong.
Tinnitus sounds like a
Sounds
tennis
weird.
thing, like a tennis elbow is tinnitus.
Yeah. It doesn't flow off the tongue well.
No.
But tinnitus.
Yeah.
I do have that, which is a ringing in my ears, and it usually presents itself with hearing loss. So your brain is trying to make up for the hearing loss by making noise, and that noise.
That's what that is.
Yeah, that's what I've learned that is. So, like, if anyone listening has ringing in their ears all the time, you should probably get your hearing checked, because it most likely means that you have hearing loss.
I lucked out in that lucked out air quotes. The first show. Okay, this will have to be another question. The first show you ever went to, but I will write that down. No one can ever beat the first show I ever went to.
What is it?
Johnny Cash and Neyland Stadium for the World's Fair.
Really?
Yep. And I did not know until my uncle showed me pictures of us at that show.
Yeah.
With him.
So say, I'm like,
right
you
front.
and be little.
I was 3.
Yeah.
I was 3 when that happened. And, but the first show I kind of went to as I would go to like punk shows when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
But, when I got out of high school, like grown-up shows or whatever, I saw Chris Rock at the Tennessee Theater.
Interesting.
Yes. And then I saw Tool and the Melvins at the Coliseum, and I wasn't wearing earplugs. And I could not hear for 4 days.
Wow. Yeah.
Like it was solid, like could not hear. And after that, ever since then, because of that, I wear earplugs.
Yes.
And the oddest one is bluegrass shows. Is like banjos because they're so plucky and so high that
They're
it's
loud.
just like it's like, you know, poking a toothpick in your like it hurts. So
I'm
sorry,
with ya.
sorry. But,
Oh yeah, no, you're good. Even songwriter rounds sometimes like they blast the sound on it just because it's one person and a guitar doesn't mean it's not going to hurt your ears.
Yeah.
It's loud. Yeah. But the tinnitus, to go back to that for a sec, I put that on the track of that song Like You that I wrote because that's what I hear. So I was trying to kind of like give people an idea of what I hear by doing that without annoying them too much because I still want them to listen.
Yeah.
And so I got like, I had like a micro Korg little old keyboard, MIDI keyboard, and I fiddled around with that and kind of found like what I thought was a similar tone. It's very high pitched, and played that throughout the song and kind of had it come and go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I will say the only reason I brought up that story about Tool is because that's all I heard for the first day.
See,
and then the second day I started hearing muffle and that, and it just I was working, so I was working all day. Like, I have no idea what you're saying. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Have you gotten, like, molded earplugs for yourself now?
No, I've got just the regular ones, and they seem to do good.
Good.
I'm very much like, I have a pack in my car.
Yeah.
I have a little plastic carrier that I take with me to every show. Like, I have backups on backups because I don't screw. I'm a friend of the Bijou, so I sit down front. And I was like, I'm not sitting in front of a damn speaker.
No.
For a whole show. Like I ended up when my friend was in town and we went to, she got a ticket to see Jimmy World and Dashboard Confessional at the Tennessee Theater. And I went to it and I didn't have earplugs and I was pissed because I was like, I'm not going to be able to enjoy this because it's just going to freaking hurt.
It's going to hurt and you're just like worrying the whole time. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah, totally. I will ask one more question. I forgot. I put this down at the bottom. Because you have some notoriety, because you're a singer, and you're big, has anybody reached out to you about being an advocate or talking to kids or anything?
I've had some different organizations reach out, and I've done like some social media stuff with some things. I the biggest like hearing loss group that I've worked with is called Aid the Silent, and they are out in San Antonio, Texas, where they do a music festival that is catered to hearing loss. So the founder is a mother-daughter duo, and the daughter has hearing loss. And she is she's lost the majority of her hearing as well. And and so they started this music festival that I went ahead and actually got to play at that has ASL signers. Like on the side, it has captions for the show, and then there's different parts of the floor at this outdoor theater that light up with color with the beats. They have like the sound packs and stuff. So that's something I've done. I've not like officially worked with like any organization as like a true representative, but I do a lot of posting on social media and sharing and having other people share my stuff to kind of let people know.
Okay. All right. All right. Before we get into the fun stuff, are you okay? Do you need to take a break or anything?
Oh, no. You're all good?
Okay. Okay.
I might text my mom real quick because she's making dinner for me tonight. So I want her to know.
I'm keeping you past
no, they
time.
eat super late. Like all my,
It's like the French. It's like the French. Back to the French. Let's see how it is.
She's making butter chicken tonight. It's like her signature dish.
Nice. Oh, even at my age, it's so funny. Like, I'm going to Nashville on Saturday to see Sigur Rós at the Ryman. And even at my age, my mom was like, okay, text me when you get there. And when you get home, text me to make sure I need to know you're okay.
I like that. It's just nice. It's what moms do.
Yeah. That's how they roll.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember the first song that you heard that made you stand up and take notice?
I do remember seeing Norah Jones here in town. I think it was at Thompson Bowling.
Okay.
And it was just her and a piano. I can't remember who was opening. I was kind of in elementary school probably, and I remember being struck by her just being one small little girl up there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, she's not a girl, but you know what I mean? Like, this small little person with this big piano and, you know, capturing the whole room. And I've always loved Norah Jones. I've loved her music. And I think that's my first memory of a concert. Yeah. And it's definitely one that was always special to me.
Okay.
And I don't remember much except just visually looking down at just all this black and just kind of one spotlight there on her. And
okay.
Yeah.
Was there any song that your dad played for you on the radio that even though he was kind of pushing you to understand and stuff, but was there one that you were like, hey, can we listen to that again? That it was something that you really enjoyed, or even something you found on your own that you may have shared with him?
Interesting. Yeah, that's a really hard.
Sorry.
I know it's such an easy seeming question for someone that is a musician, but it's a hard question.
Yeah.
And I have to think about that for a minute. I do I do remember always being really enamored with the Foo Fighters when he'd play their music.
Okay.
I really liked just something about the melodies that they do in those songs, and there's something just captivating about it. I know there's like a whole thing of Nirvana, Foo Fighters, which is best. I think they're both awesome. Personally, they're different in a really
I will
special
say,
way.
I think one of the most underrated musicians is the bass player. Because if you listen to those first albums, that bass is right up front, and it's super complicated. It is super complicated.
Listen back a little more.
Yeah.
But I mean Nirvana is like they created grunge. Like they're yeah.
I still will fight for The Color and the Shape is one of the most perfect albums ever made. Because it's got everything on there. It's got like almost like metal with Monkey Wrench.
Yeah.
And then it's got like
don't wanna be your Monkey Wrench.
And then it's got like what is it? Walking After You, which is almost like a country tinged song towards the end. Like, and then it, you know, of course, My Hero and Everlong, which is funny because Everlong was, because I was alive when all that came out. Everlong was big when it came out, but over time, that song has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's a good song.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the David Letterman story about that?
I don't think so.
So David Letterman had a massive heart attack and had to have like quadruple bypass. And when he survived and came out of that, they said, is, you know, your first show back, is there anything you want? And he was like, I would love for the Foo Fighters to come and play my favorite song and play Everlong. And here's the weird part. They were on tour and they were in South America or Australia, and they had to cancel that show. And Dave told that city, he was like, I'm sorry, you'll understand in 3 days why we had to do this, but we will be back and we'll do a bigger show for you. And he went back like a year later and did like a massive show to make up for that. But I always thought that was funny. He was like, and you can watch it like Letterman saying, this is what I requested, this is my, and he's almost like crying. And then they came back for his final show and did Everlong to end the show. Like he loved them. He loved them. Yeah.
Well, on that note of musicians, another one, and like after you start thinking about it, it's like the flood of names starts going through. But Jack White has always been a musician, like through all his iterations, you know, of White Stripes, Raconteurs. I love him personally, but
he lost me at first. Like the fella I went in love with the girl I never liked.
You didn't like that?
No, but once
in love with the girl.
But once I didn't know I was going to get a personal show. I think it was once he like started introducing like a bass on it. Like, I think it was just too, I don't know, it just hit me wrong.
I know what you mean. I liked the simplicity of the 2-man band sort of thing, and I don't know. But I know what you mean. And I'm glad that like he was able to like experiment more with that with like the Dead Weather and Raconteurs. Love the Raconteurs. But I remember us always listening. This is like the least like rock and roll song he probably has, but I can tell that we are going to be friends.
Oh yeah,
It's just one of those songs that's like, it's unassuming. And
so that was when I went back to later and found I was like, no, I really like this song because it's almost like a Daniel Johnson or Elliott Smith or something.
Yeah. I saw Daniel Johnson once.
Really?
Actually, over at MTSU, some friends told me to like, he was much older and he wasn't looking well at the time. And I think he passed maybe a year or two ago. Is that right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know who he was, but then started listening to his music and seeing him play, and he, he had like his music on like a music stand and was sitting down and looked a little feeble, but everyone in that room like was worshiping him. Like, I had just heard of him, and when I was listening to like the MTSU sanctioned concert they had with him,
crazy.
I was just like, okay, maybe I should take note of this guy.
I didn't know MTSU was that cool.
I didn't either. Maybe there's I don't know who was working on their like booking stuff then, but they had it going on.
Man, he has got one song that is up there in the pantheon of American song. The True Love Will Find You in the End is like that's up there. Like, that's some Brian Wilson shit. Like, that is like next level. And I've heard a bunch of people cover it. I can't remember what her name is. There's a singer that performs as her name, but then she did a side album called Headless Heroes, where it's nothing but covers, and she does a cover of that song that is perfect. It's really good.
That's cool.
But yeah, that song, and then I ended up sitting there, went down a rabbit hole, and watched one like the last times he performed that song.
Oh, really?
And he was not in a good way, and it was so sad. And the lyrics of that song, I was like, I can't finish this. This is going to hurt me. Like, I'm going to start crying.
Yeah.
On my couch alone, just be like, this is sad. Like, this is sad.
I mean, and when I don't know his full history, but things that I've heard about, is he diagnosed schizophrenic? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the things,
a lot of mental illness.
Yeah, it does make the song. It makes the song almost sadder for sure, but more meaningful in a way too.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing of listening to like Jeff Buckley or Elliott Smith, or even going back to like Otis Redding. Going, how many years of great music did we lose out on on those folks? Like, that's a really sad thing that I don't like to let that creep in all the time. I feel like with Buckley, it does more because I think Elliott Smith has a good catalog, but Buckley was just getting started, and it's like, we just, or Stevie Ray Vaughan's another one. It's like, oh yeah, we didn't get that.
Yeah,
and that's sad. Like, oh good God, no! This was
I'm sorry to make you cry.
Yeah, this is supposed to be the fun part. Good God,
but it's the testament of an unassuming song that I think is special.
Well, see, I am the flip side of you. I am like 80% music, 20% lyrics.
Oh.
And there are some people like the Jack White thing where I can like the music, but the vocals hit me wrong.
Yeah.
And it's not Jack White, but I think of other bands. I was like, man, I love that song, the music, but I hate the vocals.
There's some people, and it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, there are, I can't think of any right now, but there are definitely people where that timbre doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Although on the flip side, somebody else I was in early on is Tallest Man on Earth. And those first albums, he is like he is so nasally to where I sent it to, I shared music with my buddy, the Todd, and I sent it to him. He was like, you better never play that shit for me ever. What is wrong with that dude? And then he was like, hold on, let me listen to that again. And like, he finally, I was like, yeah, it wears you down. Like, it's so great. And then his voice has changed completely. He's great. He's also great live.
I haven't listened. That's interesting you mentioned him. I've not listened to his music in a while. I need to play catch up.
Yeah. It's wild because he has a great song called Love Is All. Is it Love Is All Around? Love Is All?
Sounds familiar.
But it's very high pitched on the album.
Uh-huh.
And somebody recorded, he was doing sound check on some British show, and he played it like banjo or acoustic on the album. Then he did it on this electric guitar on sound check, and his vocals are like down here.
Yeah.
It's like it's completely different. And I was like, holy shit, that took it, that sounds like a cover song. At this point, it's so different. But yeah, lyrics don't catch me often, but every once in a while. Still, this is a little bit before your time, but another Knoxville legend, Scott Miller.
So actually, we were listening. What's the song that literally I think we were listening to him last night while we were cooking burgers with my parents.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of. There's one song that
if you're going to listen to, he did a solo acoustic album that has like a mule on the front of it. It's from Yeehaw Letterpress. That is maybe his best piece, his best work. He has a song called. I'm
looking it up while you're talking.
He was he was like a history major at UT, and he wrote a song about the Civil War called "The Rain," and it is lyrically one of my favorite songs because he's talking about because it was muskets at that point, and he was like, "Don't let your powder get wet." Like that's the point of the song, line. And it keeps. Well, he's like, "My powder wasn't dry," like, and it's But he has in one of his songs, it's called "Loving That Girl." He has also helped me through a lot of breakups and hard times with his songs.
I'm actually texting my mom asking her which song it was because I was like, it's on the tip of my tongue.
But he has a song called "Loving That Girl," to where my favorite line in music, he said, "Coal turns to diamonds inside of my hands. Loving that girl is hard on a man."
I like that.
I was like, holy shit. I was like, dude, you just wham. Yeah. Like a knife right through my heart, man. Like it was so, I was like, I know that, I don't know. That lyric is my favorite thing.
That's
ever.
Cool.
Yeah.
See, and coming from the guy that it takes a lot to get you to love a lyric. Is it Someday, Sometime? That's the one, yeah.
That's on the
some
women's...
Some days are up, some days are down, down.
Very depressing song, but very...
Oh, yeah. So what do you want? What do you want?
So now it's my turn to pull... Oh, God. No, I don't want to update my iOS. Good Lord. Now it won't let me click. So I'm going to go into Spotify and show you something. So if I go into Listen Now, which is where I dump stuff in, and I go all the way to the bottom, you will see... Where is it? There it is, right there. Because I was listening to the radio one night. Also, that Samantha Crane song, Bloomsday.
Bloomsday?
Is a very good song. But I'll
oh, yeah, send that to me.
But that... I was listening, I like flipped on my radio in my car and was listening to DBX and they played that song. And I was like, I've listened to this album and that song didn't strike me, but for some reason that moment and that time in that car, it hit me. And so I added it to that list.
I love it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, opening up for Cruz Contreras, he sings that song a lot, and I didn't know who originally sang it for a while. And because also I'm deaf and never hear like what Cruz is saying when he's talking. You know, like it's true. I miss out on so much.
Wait, Zoe, why are you doing air quotes through all this? In case Cruz is. He and Eric Baker on that Scruffy City Roots did a cover of Bye Bye Love that is very good.
Yeah.
And it's still up on YouTube that you can still find it. He has a song that I actually found like a YouTube video of them doing it live before he ever released it on an album called Goodbye Charlie, which is like a Vietnam song.
Okay.
And it's on the Lily's album. And I was like, that song I have listened to a lot. Because it's something about that song. I grew up with like all my uncles were in pretty hairy shit in Vietnam. Yeah. So I finally got to hear stories when I was in high school. When they finally opened up and started telling stories that are terrifying. Yeah. And but yeah, so when that Goodbye Charlie, somebody posted it like a live recording. He may have even done it. And it just hit me like a ton, because it's back when Tom was playing the steel guitar for them, Tom Pryor. So I was like, man, this song is killer, but it's not on an album. I'm going to have to borrow it from YouTube.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, hopefully whoever owns it, someone affiliated with the song.
It's on an album now.
Oh, yeah,
so,
yeah.
So yeah, you can listen to it. Okay, do you remember your first album and what format it was on?
Yes. Well, I did make CDs of like my first few songs, and I just like, I think we did like a...
No, I mean like the first album you bought.
Oh, my first album I bought. Oh, okay. This is a good question. All right. There's a chance it was a Diado album.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. I did have, I mean, like, so I didn't buy, like, growing up when I was young, like, you know, we had, like, a little money from, like, our chores. So I do remember buying a couple CDs, but most of it was just stealing CDs from my parents. Like, It's honest. Like, we have a giant CD book, and for the longest time, I'd steal it from them. And I went off to college with it, and they were not happy.
Oh, my God.
They said I could borrow it.
This is my major, guys. I need to listen to all this for my major.
I know, right? Yeah. This is education. But, so I'm trying to remember what my first CD that I bought was. I do remember owning, like, as my personal record, owning the Diado Thank You record.
No Angel, maybe, something like that.
Something like that. It's, like, got the red and white kind of. And I do remember owning, like, an early Joss Stone record that I liked. The one, like, where it's all multicolored with Herb. And, of course, Norah Jones, like, Come Away With Me. But I don't remember what my first record was. I'm going to have to ask my parents when I go home and all and ask. Like, I'm terrible at remembering that stuff. But all of them genuinely were in that CD book. And it wasn't like, it's just the communal CD book. No one had their own collection fully. It just all went into the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What is it like for you to go to live shows? Do you go to a lot of live shows?
I do. Sometimes, like, if I'm not having a great hearing day, I may pass on the opportunity. But I do like going to live shows. I'm an analyzer. I can sit there and enjoy it genuinely, especially music that I really love. But if it's someone I don't know fully, I like to kind of take notes on, like, what I like that they're doing, you know, maybe what I don't like that they're doing, even if it's not bad, just like how I can learn from them, a little educational. And I love lyrics, but I have a terrible time listening to them in live music. So a lot of it's more of like, what impression is someone giving off to me, and how can I learn from that? So I do enjoy doing that a lot. But when it's a band that I know and love, then I sing every song to it and, you know, act like a fool.
I will say I judge a lot of people for not having good stage presence. It kind of drives me nuts. Like, there's a band, I will not mention on mic, but I will mention them off mic, that when I was seeing them in the early days, they were great. And then I saw them perform at the Tennessee Theater, and I almost aloud said, this is one of the laziest shows I've ever seen in my life. Because you all used to have energy and were tremendous live, and now you suck. And I'm pissed because it's the struggle I have here with any show at Tennessee is going to be a minimum of like $75.
Yeah.
Like, it's so expensive to go to the damn Tennessee to where I was like, man, I paid $75 and $75 for the person who's sitting next to me.
And you buy a drink and then
for you all to suck. When I saw you at Barley's and you blew the roof off the place. Like, is there a musician or band right now that you think isn't getting enough hype?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Man, I should have probably sent you some of these before.
Oh, no. But no, it's all good. That is a really good one. I think it's going to take me a minute to think which ones I don't think are getting enough hype. Because my mind goes blank when people ask cool questions. And I'm like, oh, don't want to say the wrong thing. But in general, I will say, like, just with social media and the way music works right now, we have access to everything and know nothing in a weird way. Like, I feel like it's harder to find my favorite musician sometimes because there's so much stuff to weed through. So I might have to give this one a little thought.
Okay.
As to exactly which musician I think deserves the hype. But I know that there's a lot of them out there that's just like, it's a sea of that you're trying to travel through of different songs and getting it heard by someone that enjoys it.
I am prone to philosophizing every once in a while.
And
I know you're younger, but you have the parents that shepherded you in this way. I worry about kids like a generation or two from now because you have access to everything.
Yeah.
You don't have the cool uncle or older brother or older sister that can pull out records.
No.
And show you something that you didn't know was cool. So when I see kids finding like Fleetwood Mac on TikTok early on in the pandemic, the dude skateboarding, and they're like, I discovered this band. I was like, hey, we felt that way too. We just didn't express it publicly.
Yeah.
I was like, but that's what I worry about, like a generation or two now, because it's almost like if you go home and put on Netflix, you will scroll for almost longer than a movie.
I genuinely do. I watch all the trailers and then I don't watch a movie. Yeah. Because so many options. I mean, I probably wouldn't be on social media except that I think it's important as, a creative and as a musician. It's what you got to do. But I don't think I'd let my kids on it at first. I think we're going old school. We're not. We're going CDs.
Mixtapes.
Yeah.
I'll have to show you before you head out of here, before I release you to food.
To butter chicken.
Yeah, to butter chicken. In the early 2000s, there was a group of 8 of us across the country that we would make a mixtape.
Yeah.
And mail it to one another. And like I would make 7 copies of it and mail it to people across the country.
It would take you some time to make it too.
So I was also very anal. So I would actually design a slip sheet and put why I picked that song in there on the inside. But of course, it was so small you couldn't read. I'll show you. You couldn't read it. But yeah, we used to do that. And there's been a couple times where I've brought that back of doing the mix CD. But the problem now is because I'll still like rip a CD. I'll make it like 80 minutes or less and rip MP3 files, but nobody listens to MP3 files.
Yeah.
So I was like, and I don't want to do this on Spotify because I have 1,000 Spotify playlists that I never listen to. I would rather just make like that master playlist say, hey, I'm constantly updating this. Go on there. But I also on social media, I post a song of the day every day of the week, every day of the work week.
Oh, I did not know that. I'm gonna start following that.
Yeah, and it's on Twitter and on Facebook.
Okay.
On my personal page, and it'll just be something random every day. And here,
let's hear what we got.
Yeah, I can show you. It's just a simple little Tumblr page, and it'll be random. And it is, let's see, Michael Kaluka. Why is it not loading? I can't pronounce his name. Michael Kaluka.
Okay. It's
Kilowaka. Whatever.
Yeah, someone, maybe someone knows, and they're like yelling it on the other end of this.
I saw him at Marathon Music Works in like 2019. He's very good. Bo Dean's, this song is like from 92 called Good Things. Lou Reed.
Cool.
What's that guy's name?
I don't know who that guy is.
Moondog. Oh, it's the weirdest random song from Blade Runner because Vangelis just died. What's her name? Alma Coogan. So that's like a song from the 70s. There's a band called Holy Fuck. That's on Tom Tom. Margaret Whiting. Dolly Parton with Emmylou Harris and Linda Ronstadt. Foo Fighters. I had this song "Gimme Stitches" stuck in my head for like 2 weeks, and I never heard it anywhere. It just the lyric "Gimme Stitches."
Yeah, it just kept hitting you.
Yeah, De La Soul, like it's.
I like this.
Like it is the most random ass. And usually, if I'm going to see a band, I'll post a song from them. Like Friday. Yeah. Friday, I'll post a song from Sigur Rós talking about going to see them.
Well, send that link to me, or if I can find it on your socials, it just gets posted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. That's like just an easy. Like I said, it's hard. I mean, you want to find someone you trust and has good music taste to send you a good song.
You'll be questioning some of them, I'm sure.
That's all right. Yeah. But for all those people, like anyone young who's not like done mixtapes before, bring it back.
Yeah.
Like I think it's the sweetest, like most thoughtful thing to make someone something that you could have thrown it on Spotify playlist, but you actually took something about taking time to do something for someone else, and that's just nice. So
somewhere in the basement, I've got all the tapes I used to have, mixtapes I made growing up, recording off the radio. Like that kind of stuff. And then I had, like, because I played sports, I had a hype tape that I would listen to, and I can name I can even name the order probably. There's like 3 songs in a row, and it's another weird. There's a Green Day song off of Dookie that leads it off because it's super fast and aggressive. And then there's a Tool song, and then there's a Big Daddy Kane song. Do you know Big Daddy Kane?
I don't think I do.
He's a rapper from the 80s.
Okay.
It's called Enough Respect, and he's talking about how much he's a badass and enough respect due. Like that's
cool.
So that's what I would listen to get hype for sports.
Yeah.
But the weirdest thing is when I played football, you would have like get out of school and then have a long break. Like you would go to eat, then you would have like an hour and a half, 2 to 3 hours for the game. And we would just lay there. And in the early days, like I would listen to hype music and then I'd be tired by the time the game started because I was just anxious. So then I started listening to like slow R&B and classical and Tori Amos. I love Tori Amos.
That's cool.
And so, because I probably, the CD I listened to the most in high school was Little Earthquakes. I listened to that album all the time. And I got it on vinyl recently, and I was like, I almost want to meet her and say, I know I don't look like it, but I can't tell you how much this album meant to me.
I think that'd be really cool to say.
As a kid. But yeah, I would listen to it and become relaxed. And then when it was time for the game, like I would listen to 2 or 3 songs to get amped up to kick the shit out of people.
I don't know what that feels like. I'm like 100 pounds. Can't
Did you all
kick the
play
shit out of anyone.
Sports growing up?
Yeah. Well, so I ran I ran track and cross country. And eventually, took the theater kid route. But I've always been kind of the lanky one. But I rode motorcycles, dirt bikes with my brother some growing up. My brothers are definitely the more athletic ones. They dirt bike, play soccer, track, like that. Yeah, they're all dude, I guess. But
they're bros being dudes.
Yeah,
dudes being bros.
Dudes being bros.
Yeah.
Except the middle brother, he's a computer science nerd now, and I say that lovingly. He's super smart and kind of does the nerd out computer stuff.
That's all day. My main gig is marketing.
Yeah.
And it's all like SEO, organic reach, all that shit. Yeah.
You might need to give me some pointers on that.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later. Because I can there's a thing called an SEO audit to where I can run. It'll take me about an hour or 2 to run some tests.
Interesting.
And it will, and I can tell you what improvements you need to make on your website.
That's cool.
Yeah. Where do you seek out new music and new musicians?
I mean, for the longest time, I loved one of the random kind of things, like it's a weird thing that my family does, but we would always go to Bonnaroo together. Yeah. I know it's kind of like a weird family thing, but us and a few other families, we'd go every year. Like when I was in high school up into college, I think we went like 8 times. It was absurd.
That's a better summer trip than going to Myrtle Beach.
I know, right? Yeah. So that was our family vacation for the longest time. And it was really special to all of us because, it was just something a little different. We had some other friends in there. Like other parents and their children would all camp with us. And everyone did their own thing sometimes. And no one ever really pushed the boundaries too much. Like, it's Bonnaroo, but, we kind of just, all had a great time and would go to different shows with each other. But after a while, like my favorite thing to do would be just to go to a stage and not really know who I'm going to see or bands that I don't recognize. And early on I did that. And the first or second year, 2010 or 2011, I ended up discovering the Avett Brothers, and which I didn't know about at the time. My friend kept telling me to listen to them, and I was, for some reason, not wanting to. I was stupid. But I saw them live at Bonnaroo, and I don't know. Ever since then, I like trying to search for someone that I don't know for that reason. But and I didn't go to the bathroom for hours just waiting in that front line to see them.
I don't think now would be the nice time to say, I think I saw their Blue Plate special.
Yeah?
Yeah, at the Visitors Center.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
That must have been, I don't know when they did that.
I think I think they were already kind of big at that point.
Okay.
But I think it was big as in selling out the Bijou, not playing Barley's anymore.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure I saw that Blue Plate. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
But searching for new music typically just not being afraid to go to a show that you don't know the person. Because I'm that musician, and I wish someone would come see me, even if they don't know me.
Did you ever get to play Bonnaroo, or have you submitted to play Bonnaroo?
I think I submitted once. I've not played Bonnaroo before, but that would be definitely a bucket list kind of one to do.
Well, you may have already answered this question then. If you could go out on tour with anyone or any band, who would that be?
It's a really good question. I think I'd want to open for a guy, because I always love when people have a different gender, like a female opening for a male or a male opening for a female, because I feel like you don't want the same kind of thing. You don't want like two high-pitched voices back to back. I like having that difference in a show personally. So like someone that's maybe a little different than me. Obviously the Avett Brothers, I'd be like, all right, I'll sign away all my rights to whatever, go for it. But I think that probably would be who I would love to. I don't know. They seem like, I don't know them, but they just seem like people that you could get along with and learn something special about music with.
I feel like they also have shepherded younger musicians. Like Jessica Hoop, I know, has performed with him. But I think she was opening, because I saw her open for, I think, the Punch Brothers one time.
Oh, the Punch Brothers are cool too.
Yeah. But I tell you what I like in that vein is when the main performer brings the opening act out.
Yes.
I saw Elvis Costello solo at the Tennessee, and Larkin Poe opened for him, and he brought them back out to sing background.
That's cool.
And I was like, yeah, that's what I want to see. Like the night, so Punch Brothers, and I think it was Jessica Hoop, it was the night Levon Helm passed away. And so when they came out and did their encore, they did not use the mics, and they went to the front of the stage and performed The Wait in honor of him. And they brought her out there. I was like, yeah, this is great.
This is great.
Yeah, this is how it should be.
I do love that when there's like a camaraderie. And sometimes I feel like when you're like first getting started, I wish people would do more of that, like that collaboration on shows, even if you don't, I don't know, big or small, whatever. It's just something special. A show is more than music. It's interaction. It's like people want to see you interacting and doing something different.
My big thing with live shows is like, don't just play the album, man. Like, do something interesting. Yeah, I saw Death Cab came through and played the Tennessee, and they brought the Magic Orchestra with them.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
It's just this small orchestra group. It's like 16 people.
Cool.
But I was like, but to have Death Cab play with an orchestra, and I'm actually going to be back in Nashville July 6th, I think, to see Guster with the Nashville Symphony Orchestra at the Schermerhorn.
Really?
Yes.
At the Schermerhorn. I don't know which way you say it.
But I bought tickets to it, and I was like, I love Guster. Seeing them perform with the orchestra, they've done that out in Colorado too.
Okay.
I was like, I cannot wait for that show.
That would be really interesting.
That will be a good show.
Okay.
Do you remember? The Norah Jones was your first show.
Yes, that I can remember.
Okay. I had first show down here, so I'm going to skip that. Do you have a dream gig, like a venue or TV broadcast or film? Like, do you ever want to be on SNL or, God? Now I'm trying to think. Who is it? Jimmy Kimmel? Like,
yeah, like all the late night show type things. I mean, my answer to that stuff is always I would love that, but I don't think I would love that to no end. But it's not what I wake up in the morning thinking like I hope I can be on one of these shows or something. I keep like reminding myself I just want to do something I'm really proud of. And music, I want to be as successful as I can be at it. But I guess I don't give a lot of thought to what my dream gigs are. My dream gig is something I'm. Yeah. I mean, I played the Bijou here in town once, and I loved that. Like, that was awesome. It wasn't just me. It was for the WDVX special. And so obviously.
Wait, I think I was there.
Yeah, hey.
Probably.
I cruise the Lilies were my backing band.
That's right.
For that, which was super fun.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, like, of course, as a musician, I would love any of those kind of cool shows. I would love to play Bonnaroo. I think Red Rocks would be a super cool venue. So I guess, I don't always sit and think, I want to play, but But Red Rocks actually would be really cool.
Not Grand Ole Opry or the Ryman.
I think those are. The Ryman would be really fun, but I think Red Rocks would be more fun.
So when I was doing the radio show and it was COVID times, I would. There was a friend that started a radio station during the COVID times, and I had a weekly radio show called Porch Sitting, and it was about. I would interview people about the songs that they would listen to on their porch.
Yeah,
with friends. But one of the I would have questions, first album, all that. A few of these questions are from that. But I added a question that said, once we get past the COVID times, pick if you could put on a show anywhere, what would you do? And I had like one friend was like, oh, I would make Penny and Sparrow play this small place in Brooklyn where we were supposed to see them before when COVID happened. And I said, I've never been to Red Rocks.
Really?
And I said I would want to see David Gilmour at Red Rocks because I've heard he is phenomenal live. And I love Pink Floyd. I love him. Yeah. But there's people I know that have seen him live said his live show is tremendous. And I was like, and Red Rocks.
Have you looked into like whether anything's going on?
So I have a friend that lives in Boulder. So I actually started looking for this year. Shows sell out so quick, and the cheapest tickets are like $400 to sit back. And I was like, I'm going to...
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm going to sit in the first 50 rows if I can. Because if you sit in the back, there's no point.
Yeah.
There's no point. And so I started looking, and it's like a lot of good acts. I love Lord Huron. That's one of my favorite bands right now. And they're playing 2 nights. And to be able to sit in the first 50 rows, cheapest tickets like $750. I was like, I'm not... That's a mortgage payment.
Yeah,
I'm not doing
that's a lot.
That's stupid. And I tried to get on to buy tickets to a show, and it like sells out so quick that I was already up in the nosebleeds, and it was going to be like $85. I was like, I'm not traveling all the way there to sit way back and not enjoy this.
The price that's crazy. I don't remember what we paid when I saw Avett Brothers and Lake Street Drive there, but I don't.
I think it's gone up.
I think it's gone up because I don't think I mean, we had further back seats, and I don't think we would have.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I hope your dream comes true.
Yeah. It may not be David Gilmour because he's like in his 70s now, but so do you set goals or a checklist?
Oh, I am like a chronic checklister. It's a bit of a problem. I have paper everywhere. Like those types of checklists sort of things. But when it comes to goals, I set goals for things I need to do in the day. But when it comes to music, I'm more like what I've started, I think, trying to do is like whether it's a full song or an idea of a song, start to like make a page on my computer and start. I want to try, this is a new idea, but I want to start trying to put like artwork and things on that page that kind of maybe even if it's color schemes or just thoughts about like the production or things that I want to go with it just on something, because to me, I have a hard time keeping that all in my head. And so having just a special page that when you open it, you kind of are flooded with maybe an image or those colors and kind of the thoughts that you were really wanting to convey with that song, whether it's done fully or not. And that's kind of what I'm doing with the song I'm working on right now. So not really a checklist, but more of just like a way to compartmentalize.
Do you get up every day and try to write every day?
I do generally. Lately, I feel like I've been trying to like do a lot of things at once, and I need to kind of get back to like, okay, social media will be there. I'm not going to be the queen at that necessarily, or there are things like you can't. It's hard to be your own booking agent. There are things like that like need good time, and I think that something's going to suffer when you try to put too much effort into those things. So it's finding a balance, but generally speaking, yes. But I feel like in the last couple months, it's been like harder to do that, So I need, there's always a balance when you're literally doing it yourself. I'm sure you know.
Here's the marketing side that's going to fuss it. Do you do content calendars?
I try, and I feel like I do. But I feel like
wag my finger at you.
Oh no, I try, but I fail every time. It's like
I guess the way I look at it is there are 24 hours in a day. Say I'm going to spend 30 minutes before noon doing something. Yeah. Even if it's working on something from 2 weeks from now.
Exactly.
It just 30 minutes. It's a cubit of time. It's a little amount of time. And if you always have it on your calendar, you can get in that habit. Because like the podcast, there's all kinds of things that I have in my calendar. It's like, no matter what, I got to do that. I got to do it. Yeah, I got to do it. And do you know what you'd like to do in the next 10 years?
In the next 10 years?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I mean, I want to have a successful and thriving music career, one where I can look back on, you know, an album full of songs that I love, have a fan base that, you know, I can live off of and travel. But I do also want, I think, like the typical things that, you know, husband, kids, like that sort of thing too. So those things don't always go hand in hand, but that's kind of what I want to look in 10 years. I want to look back and be like, I guess in my sense made it, you know, like I, you know, have the successful career I want, and I'm creating music that, you know, I think is impactful and meaningful.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But yeah,
you know how that,
and I've played Red Rock stuff. Yeah.
Well, you know how that starts? It starts with a belly full of buttered chicken.
It does.
So let's let you get to that buttered chicken. Thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me. This is really fun. Mm.